somewhere useful without getting massacred themselves, of
Well,
course.
if they're just a line, if they're just kind of behind the infantry, that skirmish zone sometimes goes out 2, 3 hexes.
No, not in this case.
Okay, okay, see, there we go. Because
Yeah,
that's a pretty powerful thing in regs, to use those
and
guys that way.
the truth is I'm not sure I've ever paid any attention to cavalry skirmishers either. And if they're like infantry skirmishers, they can't initiate close combat. So that would mean that they don't even have the
Oh,
ability
oh,
to exhibit, you know, to provide a additional size zone, right? By being able to do an op charge or something. I gotta confess, I'm not sure.
well,
Yeah,
you'd
that's
have
what
to
I was
change
curious
formation and
about
so forth.
because in
Yeah,
in
they
in
don't fight well.
Labatai, they have like a zone that can impede and slow infantry
Yeah,
movement
Movement,
and artillery
yeah,
movement. They can
and then
retreat before
the
combat,
harassing attack.
and yeah, and they can actually do sort of skirmish combat, which is while it's with swords and pistols or whatnot, it's conducted as if it's fire combat for the purposes of game mechanics. But
mm,
here in the bar rules, I didn't see anything that seemed to indicate that the skirmish cavalry can do anything exciting other than just they can retreat before combat from anybody who attacks them,
right.
regardless of speed.
Instead of just yeah, instead of just infantry.
Mm.
I'm
I'm
not
unfamiliar with bar, so keep going on. Sorry.
I am not aware of specific rules that are unique to cavalry skirmishers. I am
Okay.
not.
So they just seem to be maybe if you're looking for something that's going to act as a speed bump because moving into their EZOC is going to be, they've got a bigger EZOC than a regular cavalry unit. And they've got, it's going to cost you movement points to get close to them. So if you're using them basically as a screen, that seems to be the only thing that that I can see that they have any value for.
Right. Yeah, I'm reading the rule that specifies their behavior here in this particular game. They may not initiate close combat, countercharge, op charge. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they are non-offensive. It looks like maybe the most they could really do is just get in the way, and that could be either get in the way of your advance, just to slow you down, or get in the way of a retreat in order
Okay.
to inflict additional harm to uh, to retreating units. Because you're right. I mean, they can't do fire combat. They can't do close combat. They can't initiate combat. Period.
Okay.
And
All
that's
right. So I
War,
wasn't missing anything
Car,
then.
and BNL. So here I'm looking for where those guys are.
Yeah, they're way over on the west. They're way, way,
Oh, in
way
the
over.
West.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I'm not familiar with them because the scenario I played was the two map version of this, where the West map wasn't there at all.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I'm not clear if they ever showed up as reinforcements. They might not have. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. They sound like you almost kind of use them like Cossacks,
Okay.
just to kind of throw grit in the other guy's gears, not because they're really gonna do direct combat.
Okay. And then with just infantry skirmishers in
Mm.
general, having the so where my grenzers are, there's no leaders within 600-700 yards of them, kind of thing. They're all on their own.
Yeah.
So if I want to move them, I have to roll for them, or what's
Yep. Yeah.
okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Otherwise, they're
Because
just stuck in place.
they're independent units,
Okay.
which means that you activate them with any formation. Doesn't matter which formation. You can just say, I'm activating this formation. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and activate all the Grenzers over here if that's what you want to do. Um, they can draw command either from the currently active command leader or from any non-command leader. But again, if there's nobody around, no big deal. They can just roll an effectiveness check and put themselves in command. Although again, remember what's putting yourself in command doing? It's allowing you to move your full speed. It's allowing you to rapid march. It's allowing you to get into an enemy's zone of control. Except, by the way, these are skirmishers. They're never going to try to get in somebody's zone of control.
Right.
So really, all you're missing out on is like some movement if you fail your command roll to stealth command the unit.
Right.
So it's it doesn't do anything for their fire ability, and of course, to the extent that they're speed bumps, well, they don't need to move a lot. So for that reason, it shouldn't be a big deal. I don't think, if memory serves, they're not prize winners. Yeah, they got pretty lousy effectiveness rating.
Yeah.
So
No.
a lot of times they're not going to be in command if there's no one to put them in command. But still, the worst that means is they only move 2 hexes instead of 4. But they're skirmishers, so they're moving probably half a movement point per hex anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So they can move pretty
So they're
quick.
still
And,
moving 4,
yeah. Okay.
even if they're out of command. So whatever.
Okay.
And they can also retreat before combat, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's automatic against infantry. That's what I read,
Yeah.
Correct.
but not
Yeah.
automatic against cavalry.
And of course, because they're in skirmish mode, they obviously have a lot more latitude about how they move as well, because they got 4 front hex sides.
Right.
For
So
that.
they can just go scooting out of the way in a way that a line infantry unit wouldn't be able to do.
Which version of the rules you guys playing?
Third edition.
Third edition.
Yeah.
Oh, probably not these.
They're certainly not the ones that came in the box, because
No.
this was the absolute first game in the series.
Oh,
And
okay.
so the rules that came in the box are going to be, well, to be honest with you, I haven't read them, so I don't know how different they are, but they're clearly going to be different.
Is there is there a place where these rules are generally available?
I know.
Not like Lamakai.
I think you have to buy them from Wargame Vault, or obviously
Yes, I
just
believe so.
get them in. I think it's like $6, so it's not like it's anything crazy, or at least if
Huh.
memory serves. And
So Bar doesn't have a set of basic rules online. Interesting.
I don't think so.
No. What they do have is they've got a website that's got all of the scenario and individual game rules all retrofitted for the new 3rd edition rule set.
That's right.
So
That's right.
that's
And-
really nice.
Mm.
And so, yeah, if you buy
Okay.
a newer version of the game, so I bought Prague for Christmas this year, and so I got a copy of the 3rd edition rules, came with Prague.
Mhm.
But I have a copy of Kolin, which I bought back in 1993, that's got the 1st edition rules that were so, well, convoluted that I never played the game until Michael held
right.
my hand and told me, it's okay. You can do it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, so the you can find the rule set. But yes, I think you have to download or buy a copy on Wargame Vault. It's probably not much. It's probably like $5 or something.
Oh,
then
sure.
Then you have
It's
a
less than the
PDF.
cost of your time. And
Yeah.
they can do a PDF. Although, I don't know. So be it.
And they also
gotta
have
let you-
the bar primer, which is kind of an expanded thing with lots of examples and explanations and stuff too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
saw
not.
that.
Yeah, it's not more rules. It's just like the rules restated, but with a ton of examples and in color.
Yeah.
And so it is actually nice, and I still use it for certain things that I think it explains particularly well.
Does it have any like small scenarios that you play through, or is it just strictly examples?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just strictly examples to illustrate different, different like attributes of the mechanics, just so
Mhm.
you have something to go by instead of just the kind of dry text of the rules themselves.
Oh, does it come with counters and stuff, or is it it's just the book itself?
Well, actually, if you bought the primer, like the actual
Hard copy.
hard copy of it,
Yeah.
at least the original version did come with a bunch of errata counters for earlier games,
Oh, interesting.
and I think it also came with. Could be wrong about this. Did it come with fatigue markers and some other optional markers? I might be wrong about that, but it definitely did come with errata counters for some of the early games. Um, the early games. Oh, sometimes they forgot or didn't consider that on the unlimbered side of an artillery unit, you know how there often is a P or an F
Right.
to tell you if it can prolong or if it can fire and
Right.
prolong. Well, the
Mhm.
first game or two, that wasn't a convention. So they reprinted all those. So if you've got an older copy, or, you know, if you've got Zorndorf or you've got Kolin, you can swap out all those units for these, and then you just flip the unit over and you immediately know. You don't have to go look it up. So, you know,
Mm.
little things like that. Nothing big. I think the other thing that was a big change is that in the original games, I'm looking at the Prussian cavalry up on the kind of the northeast of our board, and I'm just going to kind of mark
Right.
a hussar unit there. I'm pretty sure that in the original game that was a single 24/7 unit. It wasn't 3 8 7s. It was a single 24/7, and of course you could make an extended line if you wanted to.
Right.
Mhm.
But obviously the extended line is going to be kind of inflexible. And so at some point they said, yeah, you know what, maybe we should break these up into smaller units.
Isn't that
And
odd though? Because that would probably be its optimum way to fight is the extended line.
well,
I mean,
yeah,
historically speaking, I mean
but
that would be the creme de la creme.
in this case, what they're really doing though is they're giving you even more flexibility than that, because now you can actually use them as completely separate units if you want to. They're
Mhm.
obviously still parts of the same formation, but they're not they're not literally required to be in a line together. And so
It
much so
seems to
that
me
they
that all
later
the
had to come
all,
back with an optional rule to try to discourage people from using them like completely separate units. It's kind of funny how that's kind of gone back and forth.
interesting. Like I say, under the La Bataille rules, it seems like there should be some incentive to form in that manner, extended line. And when you do fight that way, it seems like you ought to get some sort of bonus for doing so, and Goss, like we have the regimental integrity and that kind of stuff that you can kind of add on, and it's a totally different era. But what you talk about is an interesting thing about how armies actually fought in this age and how there's a yeah.
Yeah, there was some rule set, I can't remember what it was, but they had something where if you had an extended line, and I thought maybe it was from regs,
Hmm.
and you've got 2 or 3 hexes. The idea is that third hex is kind of wrapping around the flank of the other person if if it's kind of one hex all on their own. So,
Hmm.
but I mean,
Well,
in this particular case, because you've got the
You do
giant
triple the
regiment
firepower.
is now broken down into 3 subsets of the
Hmm.
regiment. It's not battalions, but it's still cavalry regiments. You can
Squadron.
achieve
Hmm.
the same squadrons. Yes, I guess you'd say that. They can go ahead and do that. All right. Well, cool.
so first of all right. So you're the Austrians.
I am the
All
Austrians,
right.
all by my
I'm
lonesome.
all by your lonesome. That should be comedy gold. And then did we make any determination about what we were doing on the Prussian side?
No,
No.
well, I mean, I kind of spread out the units a little bit in the areas where they're supposed to be set up. I still
Mm-hmm.
left some 2 hex markers usually because most of it's within 2 hexes of the Kaiserstrasse there, and I wanted to sit down and discuss with you how we're going to break it up and
Okay, all right,
and
good.
what
I just,
our
I wasn't sure what we had all managed to agree to while I was sleeping.
Yeah. So basically, Michael, you have one artillery counter, and that's it.
Okay,
And
okay,
and you can activate
and
that whenever you like, but David's
all
doing
right,
everything else.
all right. Is it a 12-pounder or is it like a howitzer? What do we got?
No, it's a 3-pounder.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but battalion guns.
Yep,
You can
pretty
just
much,
use
if you're
those.
lucky.
So, pretty
All right,
awesome.
you guys go chat, and then
All
I
right,
will.
all right. We're gonna go wander off here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Are we the French or the coalition, David?
I don't know, whatever we want or we can do a
Let's
great
see.
deal
I think
more.
the French are your enemies in this particular one, right?
I can't remember because this is. Oh yeah, this is 7 Years War.
7 Years
they are the
War. So the
enemy.
French
Okay,
and
all
the
right,
Austrians are
all
allied.
right.
Yeah.
I guess we're a coalition then, David.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right. So Michael, I'm not Michael, but Mitch. How goes it with
It's just
you?
the two of us.
Yeah, just the
It's
two of us. They're down in the other room trying to figure
oh,
out
good.
how they're going to do stuff, and I'm trying to figure out what to do because the it's one thing to set it up, and then you start to look at the victory conditions, and you're like, oh my God, my army's in the wrong position to try to satisfy the victory condition. So I've got to scramble and send people higgly-piggly to other parts of the map.
Oh, I totally, victory conditions are an interesting thing, particularly when they're like mid scenario things, because you can kind of do Hail Marys in the middle of a battle you would never do to kind of achieve them. I always found that to be an interesting dynamic. Anything short of the full version kind of creates that dynamic.
Yeah, so I've got to try to figure stuff out here, but it should be an interesting battle. It was kind of it was a actual loss for the Prussians. So I'm trying to figure out
what is the battle?
It's the Battle of Kolin. So it's June the 18th of 1757. So it's the battle it's about a month or so after the Battle of Prague. And so Michael and David and I just concluded a couple of weeks ago the Battle of Prague.
And this is part of the 7 Years
Part of the
War?
7 Years War, yes.
Okay.
And so this is where the Austrians under Field Marshal Daun, is it Daun? I think so. Or is it Brown? No, it's Daun. Brown was
Wow,
at
pre-American Revolution. Okay, so pretty early stuff
yeah. So
for
it's
this
under
kind of
Daun.
formation, right?
They are sending a army to relieve the army that is under siege in Prague. And so Frederick marches out.
Give me some idea about how far along we are in the history in terms of this battle, in terms of the history of because I'm kind of assuming that the formations are pretty similar to French, Napoleonics.
Oh, you couldn't be further from the truth.
Oh, say more.
Yeah. So this is the heyday of linear combat, where people are firing in line, and you've got the muskets and all this stuff, and so you don't have a lot of maneuver.
Yes.
You've got and generally speaking, the lineup for battle looks pretty much the same as if you were to fall into an ancient, battle with the Greeks or the Romans. You've got your infantry in the center, you've got your cavalry on the flanks. The cavalry fight, the infantry do something, and then whoever wins the cavalry battle comes around and attacks the infantry. I mean, it is about as
it was a heyday for cavalry then.
I mean, yeah, lots of cavalry stuff.
A high water mark for them, in a sense.
Well, I mean, they certainly have a pretty good impact. Nobody, for the most part, is going into square to deal with
I was going to say, by
cavalry.
the time Napoleonics, the cavalry get really muted by the squares.
Yeah, and so in this particular one, you can go to square, but trying to form square is nearly impossible unless you've got really elite units that can pull that off. So for the most part, you're fighting in line. You're hoping that the blast of your musket is enough to drive off the attackers. You hope to God you don't get hit in the flank.
Mm-hmm.
And then the movement is very much slower. So, for example, in Labatai, most
Mm-hmm.
of the units have a movement factor
6, 7.
of 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
Here, the infantry have a movement factor of 4. Heavy cavalry have a movement factor of 6. Light cavalry have a movement factor of 7. Well, in
It's
Labatai,
almost
light
a half.
cavalry are, light cavalry are
14s, yeah, 15,
14s,
yeah.
and heavy cavalry is 10, 11, or 12 kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the movement is much, much more muted than it is in the Napoleonic.
Same time
And
scale.
so, yep, 20-minute turns. The
So what do you account for the difference?
hexes are 100 yards or 100 meters.
So
It's about the
same size.
same
Yeah.
scale as Labatai. But the other thing that's different is when you're going to turn and go from column to line or line to column.
Mm-hmm.
They're still laboring under this concept of you've got your elite company. So if you've got a battalion, so you still have an infantry battalion, and then maybe 3 battalions make a regiment, or 2
Mm-hmm.
battalions make a regiment. So that's not any different than the
Mm-hmm.
Napoleonic era. The difference is you've got this elite company that's always going to be either when you're in column, it's going to be the first company that's in leading the column, or if you're in line, it's going to be on the right side of the column. It's got the place of honor is on the right. And that's not any
Interesting.
different than Alexander the Great, where he had his elite guys on the right. Same thing all through the ancient period. It's not any different. You've got this crazy concept. And so what happens is if you want to turn and form line a particular way, well, if you were going this direction and then suddenly you're turning and the lead company was in the front and now they're turning to form line facing this way, it only costs 1 movement point. But if it's a case where you're turning to face the other way and now the elite company's got to backtrack and go over to the
Uh-huh.
right, now it costs 3 or 4 movement points just
Uh-huh.
to change formation. So the game system itself really captures the sort of, for want of a better word, clunkiness of, of combat in this particular era, where you don't have a lot of, huge, maneuver for the most part. People are you kind of once they're in place, they're in place.
Uh-huh.
And so that's something that's quite different than what we're used to with the Napoleonic era, where the French got rid of the French Revolution. The army and the units and stuff like that that they're putting together. You don't have one company that's your company of honor that's made up of a bunch of veterans or made up of a bunch of nobility or whatever else that gets a special spot on the right. French Revolution, you don't care. We're
Uh-huh.
just trying to get people out there, and hopefully
Right.
they have
But
some vague idea of how to do stuff.
in the Labatai counterset, you definitely have a hierarchy of regiments, right? That serve under a division. That first one always has the best morale and usually the most punch.
Right, but generally speaking, from the point of view of like maneuvering your units, so as the war gamer, if you're going to change from line to column or column to line in your infantry in Labatai, it's just 1 movement point. Here, it's which way are you changing your facing?
You do pay for like extending the line.
Sure.
You
That's
pay that movement cost, and
right, but for the most part, yeah,
you wheel that costs you movement.
right. But just the act of changing formation. If you change formation and you're going in line and then you change and now you're facing towards your left, it costs 1 movement point. But you want to change formation and you want to form your line to the right, it costs 4 movement points. And so it's taking into account this whole clunky business of having your elite company run from the head of the column to the end of the column so they can still be on the
how does
right
the
when they
game,
change direction.
how
So,
does, let me ask you a question.
yeah.
How does, I love what you're talking about. So when the unit suffers losses, does that elite company, is it the first to go? Or does it just keep stacking itself
So
below? How does that work?
that whole thing is kind of, for want of a better word, is folded into the movement system. We on the board itself, on the map itself, all we have is just the counter that represents the battalion. So we don't have a separate, counter that represents each company. So, when there is combat, for the most part, whether it's artillery or musket fire or whatever else, I mean, that's kind of getting distributed across the whole, against the whole battalion. It's not just, one set of guys or not. So, as you suffer losses, just like in La Bataille, it's going to have an effect on the unit's morale. But there's not anything that is
But you don't
particularly.
lose, there's no concept that's sort of like a lead company that sort of has to take the losses. And so when you take that first loss, because that, you're leading with your best guys, if they get hacked up or whatever, the unit doesn't suffer kind of doubly. It's just a strictly proportional loss.
Yeah, it's proportional loss is the way that you're looking at it. So yeah, but they're trying to capture the movement element that's happening, and so that's something that's really, really different. The whole pace of combat is much, much, much slower than what we're used to in La Bataille, where you can, move a division and have a lot of freedom of movement. In this one, stuff is moving along at a glacial pace by comparison. So that's one of the
I don't
more
have enough
significant
experience
differences.
to even feel like one way is, more realistic than the other. I don't really have a good sense for that.
Yeah,
I know that humans can move. In 20 minutes, you're talking about a reasonably fit, Frenchman. He can probably move, a kilometer
yeah.
pretty easy.
Well, here what they're trying to do is the fact that you are
maybe 2 kilometers.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the particulars. I know that for the most part with
Oh,
the
we're just thinking about, like a 10, like if I run a 10K or something,
Yeah.
I could run that in X number, a little over an hour.
Well, just imagine
so,
doing that
20
though, where you have to stay lined up with all the other people who are also running it, and you've got a rucksack, and you've got a musket that weighs 10 pounds or 15 pounds or however much.
I'm saying fractional for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I
But
think
the physicality of the human can move
yeah.
a fair distance. You know what I mean? Just arguably,
So I think they do a fair job with the generally speaking, with the sort of, I don't know how you'd put it, the mechanics for the movement, really trying to simulate what's going on with all of that. So I don't know. I don't have any complaints. The game's kind of grown on me over the course of the last, I don't know, 9-10 months that we've been playing it.
Oh, I know several people that play it. It's not something I've ever tackled myself, but yeah, it seems like a popular system.
It is. It is a lot of fun.
A lot of titles, and it's Clash of Arms, so you got the high production values.
Yep.
Which are nice.
Yeah, and they've got
you got the dressy counters like you got in La Bataille.
Exactly. Well, and that's what had got me. That's why I bought the game. This game, Kolin, when it first came out in '93, because it looked like a La Bataille game. It just looked like La Bataille for the 7 Years' War, and then we tried playing it, and we were rapidly frustrated because we were expecting something different, and we didn't run. I didn't know anything about the 7 Years' War in detail or about the combat and some of these other things, and so as a result, I think I had the concept of what was going to be going on was different than what the reality of the situation was. And so we were frustrated with it. And the rules themselves are very well written. They're very. I mean, if you like the regs, you would.
Mhm.
These are better written than the regs.
Oh, okay. Well,
And
that
they
doesn't say that.
and they've
Not
got
saying much.
stuff.
I mean, as much as I like them.
Yeah, I mean they.
It is screaming for a rewrite. You know what I mean? It's been long enough.
Well, and
At
there
some
are
point,
lots of.
someone needs to take an
Yeah,
initiative there.
yeah. Well,
Those have
that's.
been those are like the 90s, right? Or 2013 maybe. Been like 10 years.
No,
Like
I
10
think
years.
I think the regs have been around for at least a dozen years or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Marie Louise rules were and those came out in 2012 with the new version of Moscow, and the regs predated those. So I think the regs must date back to maybe the 15 years or so, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. They're all trying to do or achieve some different or capture some different concepts with how they're presenting things.
Oh, I think just a major edit, just would be helpful. Maybe sort of a slight reorganization of material so that it gets a little more. I mean, the biggest frustration for me with the regs is, there's this little section over here in this other rule that doesn't have anything to do with what you're doing, but it talks about the critical piece of information you need to interpret the rule. It's like kind of maddening to find stuff. I mean, once you figure it all out and get it flowing, it's a ton of fun. But my goodness, a little bit of organization would be helpful.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so we've been messing around with Bar here for a while. Michael is a pretty good player. That is, he's got a fair amount of experience with the rules, and so it's been very helpful because David is relatively new to the system as well. And so the two of us have been, I think David played maybe last fall, played a Chochuzits, which is another, I'm pretty sure, 7 Years' War battle. And then together, Michael and David and I played Brandywine. And so that was my first foray into the system. And then we just finished up playing Prague. And so it's just a matter of kind of, okay, I'm learning this, I'm learning that, I'm kind of getting a sense of things. And Michael knows the rules well enough that, when we have a question or issue, he's like, okay, here's where it is, or this is the answer to that situation. And so that's been very helpful because otherwise I don't know that David or I necessarily would have felt as comfortable jumping into this because it is a very crunchy set of rules. But it does a really good job.
Anything that's like that is really helpful to play with somebody who knows what the heck is going on.
Yeah, yeah. So
I would there's no way I would even try to play Goss without the support I'm getting with this.
Yeah, well, that's what I've heard about Goss. I've heard that's one that takes some time getting involved with all of the. It's got those two levels. First, can you just master or not master? Can you just even do things correctly? And now, can you do things effectively? Which is even harder, right? Well, that seems to be the history or the challenge for everybody in that regard. Well, we usually have 8 guys online when we're playing, so it's like and half of them are pretty well experienced, so it's not too hard to get things mostly right. Oh, okay. So you got a big group that's playing that one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're playing the Atlantic Walls, and we're like, I don't know, middle to late July right now. And okay. I had an Allied air carpet bombing in my sector this turn, which was a nightmare, and I'm getting just full on assaulted. Okay.
in my sector is the Second Panzer. It's really exciting as I try to hold on for because we're getting very close to the victory conditions, which is basically is if I can prevent them from having a breakthrough, then we should prevail, if you will.
Okay.
Which is very exciting to have the actions centered right on me. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It is overwhelming the amount of firepower the Americans and the British can bring. It is just so much cannon, so much ammunition. Just like, are you? It's like 5 volleys and 8. And it's like, are you kidding me? Are you not again? Um, it's part of the fun, though. You better like defending,
Well, it
not
builds
to be a threat.
builds character.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a neat challenge. It's fun to sort of see if you can try to figure out ways to just hold on, enough that you can get some replacements back up to the front and replenish a unit, and yeah, it's just great fun. Yeah,
Well, good.
it kind of wants to be tactical, but it's still, at what is it, I think it's about a mile a hex or so.
Okay.
You're not really getting into the nuanced maneuvering of units like you do in Lapatai,
Right.
where it's just like, hey, here's a couple hundred horses and here's a few hundred men. It's not squad leader, but it's getting close, right?
Yeah, I don't know that you'd want to do the entire invasion of Normandy at squad leader level. That would take you a
No,
long time.
yeah, those people that play like battalion level stuff on Eastern Front, it's like, oh, it's so many units.
Yeah, they're giving themselves a challenge, to put it mildly.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, I don't know. I'm sure they're trying to figure out all of their exciting stuff. They've got a ton of stuff. The Prussians,
Mm-hmm.
although I think the Austrians technically outnumber the Prussians here, but as far as quality goes, the Prussians have better quality troops. The Austrians, this was like recent recruits that were kind of mustered up and rushed to
Well,
save.
I would think that that's a huge factor in a sense, because if you think about this warfare in our time period, to maneuver effectively, like we talked about, moving in line and so forth, requires a tremendous amount of training to do it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It's got to be very high on the. Yeah, the more you've done this, you've done it under fire. Huge advantage, I would think. In reality.
yeah. So for the most part, Frederick's got better troops, and a lot of times he was able to outmaneuver the Austrians and kind of catch them in a spot. And because everything moves so slow and clunky, it's very hard to like redeploy mid, in the middle of the battle, or try to rush and
Oh
do
yeah.
stuff. So my situation here is that this is exactly what Frederick has done. He has marched in, and he's kind of marched further to the east than my line of units, and his plan was to flank and go around the Austrian right flank and kind of turn the right flank. And so it looks like the challenge that I have is, and of course, what happened was there were there were a couple of hills that the Austrians had deployed on, and so the Prussians are coming up, attacking these hills, and getting mauled, due to Austrian artillery and infantry fire, and eventually they just kind of lose steam, and they can't turn the Austrian line. So my challenge is I start off and I'm not deployed on one of these hills that I'm supposed to hold as part of the victory conditions. And so I've got to try to race a bunch of units there to get to the hill.
Which version of Kolin are you playing?
So on the If you go to the Vassal module, this is version
Mhm.
1.2 on the
Is it
Vassal.
the one
Vassal.
Frederick's first defeat, June 18th?
Yes. Yep. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the module that we're playing 1.2, and we're playing scenario 5, which is Frederick's attack, and it includes the whole map, all 3 maps, and so it includes some reinforcements that the Austrians have that are out on the western part of the universe, and so we'll kind of see how it all works out. The Austrians have
Well,
some
I'm loading it on
interesting, you know, um, terrain that they can deploy in, and so I'm just hoping to see, well, how well can I use this terrain to my effect, slow the Prussians down while I am, trying to deploy, and take these defensive positions and get there before Frederick does.
Oh, it's a gorgeous map. I love it.
Oh yeah. This is a Rick Barber map.
I love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So
I
if you
love the
look
pencil
there,
work.
if you look there at the top of the map, up there across the top, that's all the Prussians lined up there along the Kaiserstrasse.
Uh-huh.
And then lower down, if you scroll down, then you'll see the Austrians.
The red and the blue.
Yep. Well, whether white with red cross straps or white with blue cross straps. So for the most part,
Okay.
yeah. So in that regard,
There's
the
the
color
navy
scheme
ones, and then
is
there's
the color scheme is
who's got
not that
the
much different than what you see at Austerlitz, right? You see those Austrians that you're up against are white with white pants and red piping.
do you hold Krekor?
Yep. So I've got those 2 little villages I've got Krekor, and then I've got this other one that's got
Looks
the
like
little.
2 of them are walled. That's got to be pretty
Yeah,
pretty nice.
I've got 2 hexes that are walled farms or a walled church. I don't have very good units holding those.
No, they
Those
don't
are
look
my
like much.
Grenzers, and so the Grenzers in this period
what's the
are.
TM?
What's that?
What's the TM or the stool or whatever that is between the 3 and the 4?
Oh, that's just their little national symbol.
Oh my. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think it's for Maria Theresa, who is the empress at the time.
Okay.
And then the Prussians have some little squiggly thing too, which I think is for Kaiser Frederick, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And then
Okay.
their cavalry, which is like anything that's got a movement of 6 or 7 is cavalry. They've got what looks like a little eagle with its wings up, and the Austrians have something with they've got the double-headed eagle.
The 8-7s, those are all cavalry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anything that's like got a 4 movement is either infantry or artillery. And the artillery, it looks pretty much just like the same stuff that you would find at La Bataille, where it's got the little meatball on it.
Yeah, there's like 2 of them way back up on the by the compass wheel or whatever, the directional thing.
Yeah. So that's that's
interesting that artillery can move as fast as infantry.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it probably horse-drawn at this age, or is it really physically being moved by men?
I don't know enough to answer that question. I think, for the most part, they've got the guns themselves. They're not using anything that's too heavy duty. I mean, a lot of the Austrian stuff is
a cannonball 5 miles. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Well, for the most part, you're going to have you know, the horses are going to be drawing the ammunition wagons
Okay.
and
Okay.
the guns themselves. Right now, there are some 3-pounder guns, which might just be pulled by men, and
Mm-hmm.
then the caisson is being pulled by some horses. The difference between, I mean, where you start to see horse artillery is where the gun crews are mounted on horses too. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why then horse artillery can really move around, because it's not dependent on the guys marching alongside it,
Mm-hmm.
like you have now. So I'm sure the guns and the caisson are being pulled by horses here, but the men are marching along. The gunners themselves are marching along. They're not riding along with the
What are
caisson
the
and
numbers?
whatever else.
2s and 3s. What do those mean out there?
Like on the guns themselves.
Well, just on top of counters.
Oh, on top of counters. So the values are similar to La Bataille. So the leftmost one is how many increments are there, and then the rightmost one is their movement. And then you've got all of at this particular point in time, all of your different units are usually, the regiments are under a colonel. They've been mustered under a colonel. And so, or a major or whatever. Yeah, I think it's probably a colonel or a major. And so they then have that name of that colonel or whoever their benefactor is, right? Because it's all a bunch of aristocracy. And so you'll see then that the name of that regiment matches the name of that leader or whoever it was that mustered that group of cavalry or infantry. And then if they break down into smaller battalions, then it's the 2nd battalion or the 1st battalion of whoever's regiment. So of course, this change is when we have the French Revolution, and then and then during the Napoleonic period and the Revolutionary period, then you've got everybody is under, they're all numbered. The French go with a numbering system for their stuff and get away from having the regiments named for their commander or the person benefactor. Yeah.
So let's just swing up to like 27, 25 or thereabouts on the east side.
Sure. Do you want to go ahead and flash it for me?
Oh, sure. I think I can do that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I see it.
Just for example, so you're talking about the MUN or the ZIE or the STE is referring to the person?
Correct. Yeah. So here where it's got on these grenadiers where it says MUN, that's then the name of. So if you hover over it, it'll tell you this is the Munchau Fusiliers
Munchau.
2nd, right? And then the H lets you know which brigade they belong to. So then you've got brigade leaders here. So here's General Hulsen.
They got brigades and regiments.
And so then Hulsen's got, so anybody who's an H in that upper right corner, they're part of Hulsen's command. And so when you're tracing, line of command, like you do in regs and things like that, for the leaders, they've got this little parentheses. And so that tells you what their range is for command purposes. So Hulsen's got a command range of 4. So anybody who's part of his command, who's within 4, then they're going to be in command. And of course, you've got, here these guys out here on the end, they're all the same regiment. So that command spans out through the whole regiment since they're all connected.
I think that's a good rule, and I think that's like a good example of where regs needs to like adopt that concept of units of the same regiment can at least extend that command out.
Yeah, well, they had that in 5th edition rules, and I thought they had it in the Marie Louise rules. This
Yeah.
idea of,
Oh, it's in there. Yeah. And that's just saying,
yeah,
I think Regs is a good example of where Regs needs to sort of say, hey, this is a good rule. Hey, what's the number 3 though, and the number 2 that are in this area that we were looking at?
so just the markers that are here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What do
Yeah.
those mean?
So the person who designed this vassal scenario, originally all of these units were all stacked under here, and it said set these people up within 3 hexes of
Okay.
XYZ, and set these people up within 2 hexes of XYZ. And so when David sort of unshuffled all the units, he still left the markers there so that he'd kind of know, all right, we can move these guys around a little bit, um, with what it is that they wanted to try to do. I took
Okay.
off.
Yeah,
I mean, we had similar stuff on the setup for the Austrians. I just removed all of mine.
I got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that's
It's an aid
that's
for setup.
yeah, it's an aid for setup, and that's not unusual. A lot of times
Mhm.
when you go to a vassal module, um, it'll tell you, hey, here's the boundaries. Sometimes it'll have the boundaries marked out. Other times it will have like a stack of units, and there'll be a marker like this is an increment lost marker, but it's the vassal module author put it there so that way for setup purposes, hey, this
The
is
units in this
set these
stack
up
have
within
to
2 of this,
set up
set it
within
up within
X
5 of this
number.
or whatever. And it's just
Yeah.
kind of makes life a little easier for you. So those are not
Hey,
actual
at
hits.
least you have
Yeah.
hex numbers, which don't really ruin the look for me, which are handy. So
Yeah. And
I mean, the
so,
set of charts in Lavatai would be so much easier if they had hex numbers.
yes. Well,
It's like, are you
and
kidding me? This whatever beauty we're getting is lost so many times for the difficulty in setup.
yeah. Well, and this is, it is a convention of Labatai that
Yep.
has carried on through the decades. So, I mean, um, there are, I'd have to think, there might be 1 or 2 games that do have hex numbers on them that are Labatai. I know the Marshall
Mhm.
Enterprise people do not put hex numbers on any of their
Right.
stuff. And I know a lot of the early, and even the recent stuff from Clash of Arms doesn't. There might have been. I haven't played Lutz in a long time. I don't know that it's got hex markers, but it might. It might have been one of those ones that might have hex markers. But generally speaking, the Labatai ones don't put the hex markers. Now, when you're looking at the Austerlitz game that we're playing, the the does the guy who created the module, um,
Put them in.
well, they're there because they have to have it marked so that you know where the unit started and where it's going to, kind of a thing. So they
Mhm.
do have them as a function of the module,
Mhm.
and they're basically just whatever numbering system he created, starting with 0, 0 on one end
Mhm.
of the map and going all the way out to
Yep.
120 or whatever it is on the other end of the map.
Mhm.
Um, and but they don't obviously correspond with anything on the map because there aren't any printed hex numbers on the map.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, you can just turn that on. It'd be pretty easy if you wanted to.
Well, and so actually, if you hover over a hex, it will tell you what hex
Yep.
number it is.
Yep.
Um, but it doesn't necessarily. I mean, there's not anything printed on the map that shows it.
Mhm. Oh yeah,
But
it's just just a little setting you turn on and off.
yeah, and so it's there in the Austerlitz module as well, where it has a hex numbering system, and similarly in the other Labatai modules, it's got a hex numbering system, even though there's no hex numbers
Mhm.
on the map. Um,
Yep.
and that's just for the conventions of making the module work. So,
Yeah, totally understand.
all
So
right.
David and I have talked it over, and we're pretty sure we won.
Okay. Well, good. That I'm congratulations.
Oh, I was here for the coin toss.
Yeah. I mean, really, if you think about how long Moscow took, how long Prague took, we just thought how nice it would be to get it over a little quicker.
We should just do single combat.
That's it.
Yeah.
We'll just have Frederick and the
Frederick and
Austrian
Dawn,
commander, and we'll roll initiative
and
just see.
whoever rolls highest,
That's it.
that wins. They win the
Oh,
duel.
I think you should use, the gunslinger rules
Is that
for this.
it?
Oh yeah, that's what we
Pistols at
need.
dawn.
Yeah, you got to
So,
march back and then reactions. Yeah.
So I think David and I have our cunning plan,
Okay.
and we observed that it was the Austrians' obligation to set up first. So
Yeah, I don't know. Does it say somewhere where that happens?
yeah, no, it absolutely does. We found it because that's what I do.
Okay.
It's on page 12 of the special rules.
Okay.
Um, Very bottom of the left column, the Austrian side sets up first in all scenarios.
Okay. Well, cool. I've pretty much set up. I did want to double check stuff with the victory condition. So
Of course,
from
yeah.
from what I'm understanding from looking at the victory conditions,
That's funny. We looked at ours. We didn't look at yours.
well, no, I'm looking at yours because
Oh,
one of my victory condition is to prevent you from having a victory.
okay. All right.
Right. So I need to know what you've got to do. But it looks
Okay,
like
yep.
there's like a road that runs like
Okay,
through the
Yeah,
center
there's
position.
3 different roads that we care about.
Yeah.
Right.
And the easiest way to find them is to scroll all the way to the bottom of the map
okay.
to see where they terminate against the bottom of the map. And the westernmost one is this one.
Yep.
Okay.
And and we
it
have a
goes to
num
here.
yeah, it goes up to somewhere near whatever that hill is I can't pronounce.
Yeah.
And for a decisive victory, we need to have a certain number of good order, good morale troops west of that road. And then there's some requirements for your morale has to be worse than something, and ours has to be less than that.
Right. So
Um,
so there's for a super exciting victory, the
Yes.
westernmost one here at 7017.
that's
Then
right.
for a major victory, it's being
That's right.
west of
This next one.
7012.
That's
This
exactly
road-
right.
And then
Up to-
for a marginal, it's this one here that's over
That's
at.
exactly right.
They're
Okay.
Now,
there.
the other difference you'll see, though, is for decisive, we need fewer units west of that westerly road. For the major victory, we need more units west of that less westerly road.
Right.
And then we need lots of guys for a tactical victory west of that easterly road. And then there's some, subtle differences in the morale levels.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I was trying to, because when I was looking at it, at first I'm just like, okay, I've got my whole army is stuck over on this west side of the map.
Yeah.
Why bother moving east? I'll just set up here by this hill where I'm already
Right.
at. And then I started
Absolutely.
looking at it. I'm like, well, crap! I got to be over. I got to be over here on the
Right.
east because I got this other road or I got this other hill I got to get to. So that's why I turned all my guys sideways because I got to run my army off in the other
Exactly.
direction.
Well, and to be clear, if we roll back the clock a day or two before this, the Austrian army is actually facing west at the creek.
Oh,
The only
okay.
reason the Austrian army is even facing north is because they can see the Prussians walking down the Kaiserstrasse, and they're like, "Oh, we're not going to let them get around our flank, so we'll turn north."
Right.
Well, and obviously, that's the whole dynamic that's going on right here.
Okay.
So yeah, that is the thing is that we are way north of where we need to be, and and we need to get south, but we need to get south, and we need to decide how far west do we need to get south. Because obviously, if we just march straight south, yeah, that's going to be west, but it's also going to be right into your teeth. So it's like,
Right.
how attractive is that? So then, what do we want it to look like?
Okay.
And that was exactly the conversation David and I had, because you might actually suggest that the way you'd approach the battle be different if you're going for a decisive victory versus just going for any of them,
Right.
right? So, yeah. But no plan survives contact, so it's all good.
Well, and since I was not privy to your conversation, I will just have to tease it out as it
That's
happens.
pretty much what it happens.
Yeah, yeah. I will have to, as you said, see how things mature.
Right. And by the way, I got to say, I don't know why this keeps showing up on my screen, but have you seen this just north of the Kaiserstrasse in the middle of the board?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe a little east. It's like, what the hell? Did somebody like have a piece of tape holding the maps down and it wasn't clear tape? What the heck happened?
That
The
I think we have to
the map
roll a
that he
die.
joined was
That's
better.
actually a temporal anomaly, and we
And
roll
a
for
unit that-
all your units within 10 hexes of that. They might get sucked into it. It's a black hole. How close are we to the CERN? A giant
that's
mega.
It's going to be kind of
Yeah.
a little bit of a long way from
Okay.
Czechoslovakia. Yeah.
We can pretend it's Europe.
Yeah,
It's all the same. It's like
Sure.
Texas.
So, anyway, so you say you have kind of done some of your
Yeah,
setup,
I'm
but is
pretty
there
much
more of it
where
you'd
I'm
like to
at.
do?
I mean, it's just going to be arranging the deck chairs on the Titanic at this point.
I like your attitude,
Yeah.
sir. It's
So
very inspiring.
yeah, I might spread out these wacky little guys a little bit there. So
You do you, brother.
yeah.
It is interesting for the oppressions. You have some options to set up on the road, or you can set up a little bit more forward. That's interesting.
Well, yeah, and in fact, I think there's another scenario that the last scenario that actually starts earlier in the day that gives the Prussians even more choices, because obviously, starting earlier in the day, you could decide to just go ahead and bum rush the Austrians if you want to. You don't even need to go around them if you don't feel like it. Whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, good times to be sure. So, all right. Well, if you think you are set up, then David and I can finish making changes to our setup. And,
Yeah, for the most
and we
part,
could
my
chuck some
stuff
dice.
is kind of exactly where it's supposed to be based on the
Okay.
setup rules. They didn't give me a lot of flexibility.
Oh, you didn't get as much latitude as
Oh
we
no,
did.
I have hardly any latitude at all. It's like within
Okay.
1 hex of this or within 2 hexes
You're
of
right. It
this.
sure is. Yeah.
So, it's
Okay.
just a matter of which way are my units facing, and
Right.
that's about it.
And I don't think it actually dictated formation, did it? And actually, in some of the games, it does. But
Yeah,
don't
I didn't
think
see
it does
anything. I didn't see
here.
anything that said which formation I'm
It
supposed to be in,
says
except for the
mostly be.
Grenzers. The Grenzers have to be in skirmish mode.
Okay, well, that's fine. All right.
Yeah.
It says Austrian troops will mostly be set up facing north and Prussian troops facing south, but it doesn't specify a formation.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're free to go ahead and start in column if that so
Yeah.
interests you. And yeah, in some of the games they specify that you got to start in line, but
So
very
for what
often.
it's worth, all of my Grenzers are always in skirmish mode. So
Okay.
I'm not going to
Yep.
bother with the
Not even going to
skirmish.
bother marking them. That's
Well,
fine.
and part of the problem is the skirmish markers cannot be
Yep.
rotated. They cannot be deleted.
Oh, they're that crap.
They are
Okay.
they're poison.
Yeah,
So
that is no bueno por
Yeah.
caca. Okay. All right. So David presumably making movement. I'm gonna make some changes to some of the things that were here. Just so you know, David's taking Zeton and Trescow. Those ought to be names.
oh
very
yeah, those
familiar
names
to
are
you.
very familiar. he wants to get his revenge on me.
He does. That's exactly what he wants. And I'll take Bevern and Penavere, and then we're dividing up the independent units according to kind of what's near each of those. And except for this command, all of them set up on or north of the Kaiserstrasse between C2 and C21. Okay. And
This map is so good looking.
oh
It's a
yeah, it
10.
really is.
It really is. The craftsmanship, I'm just drawn in. This is gorgeous. I love the handwork.
Yeah, it's you could definitely tell it's a Rick Barber map just looking at it. He did so many of these maps for Clash of Arms during that time period. So
Big time. Okay, I guess I got a question. So I got a command here where it says within 2 hexes of the Kaiserstrasse between 2027. Okay, that's there. And 2034. Oh, okay. All right. So those guys are validly set up. I was confused about how it was they could be where they are, but I'm okay. And then all the rest of them need to be. I don't think some of these are set up in a valid place there, David. Some of Penavere's cavalry.
It's possible.
Because I don't think they can be. They have to be east of the C21 hexes.
Which one are you talking about is weird?
Well, this one and this one, I think they all have to be east of the 21 hex row, which is like here.
Oh, okay.
They have to be between 02, which is way off to the east, and there. So I think they need to all be farther east than they are, but that's okay. We'll do that. We have the power, we have the technology.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 21. They have to be north of the Kaiserstrasse. All right. I bet we can do that. Well, there's some really shite terrain north of the Kaiserstrasse. I'm not really sure how excited I am about some of that.
well, you're welcome. Just stay on that side of the Kaiserstrasse.
You think so?
Yeah,
That's so nice of you. Not
it's-
everybody would be so considerate.
Well, I'll send a real estate agent out to give you a tour of the
Well,
various and sundry farms and villages
that is just what we need.
for your pleasure.
And that's also one of Penavere's guys, and they got to be west of the O2 hexes. Okay. Yeah, that's what they say. There's too many variables. I'll mess you up.
That is our dear friend K9 letting us know that there's been a message on my cell phone.
Oh, we all know it too well, sir. All too well. All right. And that's cavalry wing, and then the rest of this is Bevern, PN, M, and P. Is this also
Gentlemen,
Bevern all the way
I'll
over
see you
here?
tomorrow night.
All right, take care, Mitch. Thanks
is.
for popping in.
Yeah. This gorgeous looking game. Thanks for the
Yeah.
Okay.
and asking dumb questions.
Right. Oh,
Hey,
not
good
at all.
stuff.
You want to take
Enjoy
a
your
command
battle.
for a little bit?
Not tonight. I got to do too much.
Get your homework
I'll
done.
see you guys tomorrow night.
Okay,
Yeah,
take care.
Exactly. I got the code right.
All right, bye.
Take care. Okay, so that's all Bevern all the way across. Then 2 hexes of the Kaiserstrasse from 14 to 19. Oh, okay. Monstein 20 to 29. Yeah, just leave it at that. All right. And then this one is 2 hexes from 23 to 30. 21, 23 to 30. Okay. Yeah, I made extensive use of tile markers when I was setting these things up to try to when I was setting it up playing solo on a real board because I'm like, what?
Yeah,
What are
trying
we
to figure out
doing?
where the heck they're supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's just it's hard to get much of a visual off of these things.
Right.
Okay, and then this artillery is two hexes of the line of the Kaiserstrasse from 15 to 30. Okay, and that's 4 and 5. And that's 6-pounder number 3. Yep, looks good. And then mortar. Yep. And they're all within 2 hexes of that. Okay, I believe that. And then I guess you've got some of that other artillery that's farther east. 12-pounder number 2 and 3. Where's 12-pounder number 1? Is that? Oh, that's even further east.
He's got that over here. Yeah.
Okay. All right, and you're getting it all set up. Okay. Within 2 hexes of 1908.
Gesundheit.
Bless you. Excuse me. Heavens to Murgatroyd. Okay, 1908 is where? Right there? 2 hexes? All right. We'll do that. And then where do we actually put these guys? And one question is, where's the king? Oh, he's right there. So, and what's the speed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, all right.
Now, first, there's first Moritz. He's got some special rules with him.
Uh-oh, I'm gonna have to look those up. I don't know about those.
Yeah, I think he's potentially the replacement for Frederick.
Yeah, but there's also he can actually act as the army leader once per turn.
What?
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. Um, Special leader can be used as a de facto army leader for the purpose of tracing army leader LOC. Can only be used in this way for activations involving Trescow and Bevern's wings. Interesting. And their subordinate commands, you can use the ability only once per game turn. Okay, I'm trying to figure out what the point of that is. Can only be used for this purpose once per game turn.
So I guess if Treshow were to get like a second activation, then you wouldn't be able to trace command in the same game turn.
Well, actually, what I was wondering is where would it be especially helpful is if you wanted to do a wing activation, but you couldn't reach Frederick. Once
Yeah.
per turn, you can reach to Moritz instead. I mean, the fact that you can only do it once per turn makes it
it's one
feel
per
like you
turn.
want to
It means
save
like
it for.
it's. I know, but it's once per game turn. I mean, every 20 minutes is a game turn, right?
Yeah.
So
No, but you can use him for tracing command only once
per
as
game
the
turn.
army lead. But every time an activation happens, you have to trace a line of command for
Right.
every activation.
Oh, I see.
So in other words, only one activation can get the benefit of the fact that you can trace to him instead of Frederick. Whereas all the rest of the activations just have to go to Frederick.
Okay. And he's
if you
still got to
can't.
pass a leader initiative die roll.
Does he? Okay.
Yeah, so the
And
next
where
thing.
is he?
Yeah, I
Is
think
he is he stacked with the king right now?
I think so.
Yeah, he is. You're right. Okay. So that is actually interesting because then you do kind of think, okay, well, like if if you can kind of set the king to one side where you expect the main axis of attack and then send him the other direction
Right.
to help out away from the main axis of the attack. So I mean that makes sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how things were there at Prague, where who was it that was our chap out on
Varen
the
was your
side?
detachment leader, right?
Well, we
Wasn't
had Winter.
Schwerin the-
Yeah, Schwerin was the detachment leader. So
Right.
Moritz is a lesser detachment
Yeah,
leader, I guess.
he doesn't have an explicit detachment, but
Yeah.
he could. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's kind of but yeah, you could use him for a wing activation then. So
And
then
I think a wing activation is where it would really be
Yeah.
interesting, right?
Yeah.
So he must not have already activated, must pass an initiative die roll. If he fails the die roll, there's no effect. And really, if you think about it, if he fails the die roll, then all that means is the wing leader has to roll a die roll.
Yeah.
So you still have another chance to pass.
Yeah.
If you used him for a wing activation, for example. And the truth is with the king having a 10 hex range and being, at least currently, along the road, I mean, he can control almost anything he wants. I mean, right? I mean, think about it. That's a long way that you can reach with his command. But yeah, I mean, I think it makes some sense to split those guys up. Okay. What else have we got? Is there anybody else I need to move? I don't know that there is. I may be about ready. How about you, David?
Just about. And you're taking those grenadiers, right?
The
As I'm
ones in the middle, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm removing the little distance markers too.
Oh, okay. Yep. That should be good. Yeah, because I think all of my guys have been moved to where they need to be in order to be useful. And it's funny because this isn't really that big of a battle.
Right.
There aren't that many pieces on the board. And I think it's easy to overestimate how much you have to keep track of. But I mean, look at the army. The Austrian army chart looks fairly complex. You've got a lot of wing leaders. They're none of them too big. But we've only got 4 wing leaders. That's it.
Mm.
I mean, it's not as overwhelming as like Prague was.
Right.
In terms of the number of units involved. And I'd love to go back and play Zorndorf again now that I haven't played it in years, and I was kind of a inexperienced player at the time.
Well, that'll be the next one on the list.
All right then.
Yeah.
Zorndorf. That's another map. Looks just like this.
Yeah.
It's just
Although,
massive.
isn't it snowy or?
No, it's summertime. It was
Oh,
hot.
summertime. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like August. It was hot. Uh, oh, I haven't quite situated my leaders yet. Oh dear. Oh, I moved somebody and didn't realize he was the wrong guy. Yeah, that's not good. Um, five. Fuck it, he'll be fine. Yeah. In fact, based on that, I'll just move him over here. There we go. And where's Bevern? He's on the road there. On the road again. 6, 7, 8, 10. Okay, so he's in range. Yep. Okay. Good. Yep. And then Zeton, I'm sure, is over there with his boys. Okay. It is actually a little bit ironic that the Austrians have to set up first. I mean, that's kind of a classic war game convention for the defender has to set up first. But if you read the accounts of the battle, the Austrians knew exactly where the Prussians were, and the Prussians had very little idea where the Austrians were. So it actually kind of feels like you should set up the other way around. The Prussians should have to decide where they're going to attack without any clear idea where the Austrians are. That would make a lot more sense historically. But oh well.
All right. I'm welcome. I'll shift all my guys around now.
Yeah, would you?
Yep.
That'd be great.
It's time for me to paratroop some guys in there, right on top of Frederick. He's got his bodyguard.
He's probably out there by himself, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, he's fooped.
All right. Well.
Oh. Okay. Yep, those are yours. All right, very good. So, anything else before we proceed, gentlemen?
Let's chuck some dice and see what we get.
All right. Let's see how much mischief we can get into. So here I am looking at this module. Oh, I found the turn track. So we're starting at 140. When are we ending? 9 p.m.? Is that what it says?
That sounds about right.
Wow. Okay, so basically this
40
is...
to 9 o'clock, yeah.
Wow, that is till the bitter end, isn't it? All right, well, very good. Well, then, and our end turn number?
Is 11.
Is 11, so we have to exceed 11.
Yep.
And Frederick is +5
Okay.
on this. I don't know what the Austrian is.
I am 7 for a wing.
No. What's your initiative, though?
Oh, my initiative. Oh, it's a 10.
No.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No.
It's +3. That's the little black one, right?
Yes.
Yep.
So
you have a net +2.
that's kind of where I was going with all this.
Yeah,
is
because if
trying to
you're
figure out
a
what
5 and
that
I'm a
was.
3, the net difference is going to be
Right. Dawn has a
+2.
command rating of +3, a wing activation of 7. Okay, and then Frederick has got a larger one.
Yep.
+5 and a
He's
wing
+5.
activation of 5 also. Okay, so +2 for the good guys, as we say.
Mm-hmm.
And I am sitting here looking, and I see the red die is on the left, and the blue die is on the right.
That is correct from what I'm looking to. So
All right.
it's going to be
So then-
Austrians are red and Prussians are blue.
Okay.
Hey.
All right.
For a change, I'm on the good side.
It's
Like the way you
all it's
talk.
all Prussian post hoc justification. What are you talking about?
Post hoc. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter which one is which. It's 4 for each.
Yep.
And so that means it is a Prussian activation.
Yep.
And I would propose that David take the first Prussian activation.
Okay. And all right, so yeah, I'll do Tate.
Tecate? You having a drink? What?
Yeah, katas.
Oh,
Cat-
Kate. Yeah, I
Kate.
see. Yes, he's the one of Zeaton's boys.
One of Zeaton's boys.
So
He's
where
like
are
half
you
of-
at?
Way east.
Okay, way out on the
Way
far side of
east.
the universe. Okay.
So Frederick's there, right? And so it's half along the road.
Yep.
Or actually, that's a third along that one, isn't it?
Actually, it's not. There
This one's the
isn't
half.
any change to the rule based upon the actual speed of the road.
Are these the smaller roads? Are those anything, or are they?
The trails?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a question for Michael, which is why we let him play with us.
Oh, I see how this is. Yeah, there are major roads and minor roads. The major road, which is effectively just the Kaiserstrasse, is a third
Oh,
of a
okay. It is a
movement
third.
point per hex, but not for command reasons. I mean, there's no. I've never found a rule that says that you can stretch your leader to leader command equal to the actual speed of the actual road. It just says half per hex
Right.
on a road.
So Zaitin's in command, and so Kata's in command.
Exactly. So you're still okay. You've still
Yeah.
got the full continuity, but yeah, the Kaiserstrasse is a third of a movement point, and then those other minor roads are a half a movement point for movement purposes.
All right. Now, okay. So
Full command, and
The-
I imagine everyone is in reach of him from the looks of it.
well, everybody but these guys.
Oh, because they're. Oh, yeah, I remember this when I was playing. Yeah, I was like, "What the hell, guys? What are you doing?"
Well, they were.
So
This was this big flank march, right?
hmm So, they're going to be half movement, but on the other hand, they're on the Kaiserstrasse in column, so they can still move pretty quick.
right now, can they just go down the? Can they continue along the Kaiserstrasse in column, or do they have to?
Well, they'd have to be in
Certainly.
road order, right?
In fact, I was going to ask: is there any reason you don't have them in road order?
Well, I couldn't, according to the rules, to get them in road order, one of them would be out of a range of the hex that had to set up in.
Okay, well then, uh,
I mean, I could make
why
him.
don't you? Well, I mean, yeah, because these units would take up 2 hexes for road order.
Right.
So,
Because
so how far east could you possibly go? How far west could you possibly go?
there is. Okay, so find that. That is the. Those are. Who are they? Okay, let's zoom in. Z. Those are Z. 2 hexes of 2432. That's this hex right there.
Within 2 hexes of that.
So I can do.
So basically,
Okay.
between there and there.
I can do 2 in road column,
Yeah.
and I can have 1 here, and
Well, oh yeah, actually that would be fine. Then you could just put him in a road column and just have him be tailgun Charlie as the road order guys move past.
right. Okay, so let's see. Can I get no, road column
There we go.
and extension is.
Mm.
Oh,
Okay.
let's dispense with that.
Yeah, we know how this works.
Yeah, he's in road column. He's in road column. We don't have to worry about.
Especially some of these older modules that are
All right.
a little sus.
I'll just do it.
Oh,
like that.
there you go. Sure, that
Okay.
works.
All
All
right.
right, so they're out of command, so they can only move 2 movement points, but that's 6 hexes.
Two?
I mean,
Is it
thought
half
it
their
was half.
movement?
oh, I'm sorry. It's half movement, so 4 movement points,
Okay.
which is 12 hexes, obviously, as long as they're on the.
All right. So, all right, where do we want to go here? Da, 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 da. Actually, I should have turned those slightly differently, but that's okay. We'll do that. That was stupid of me. All right, but we'll make up for that.
We got plenty of time.
1, 2.
So going across the little creek is +2 for them.
So there, 5 on
Yeah, the creek is. Well, wait a minute. The creek
And then
is
going up the
up
the
hill.
stream. The stream is +2.
stream, right?
Right, and then the slope is +1.
Right. So I can probably get to about there.
Well, where did they start? They were all here, except for
Right.
one who was on that side, right?
Yeah.
So the one guy here, he could get there, right? So he turned. That's
There.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He can get there,
Easy,
7.
right?
right? This guy here turns. That's 1. Then moving here is going to be, or moving
2,
here is
3.
going to be 3. So that's 4 movement points. And then he can move there.
It's. Oh yeah, yeah. it
Yeah,
is,
and
yeah.
then there's 5 to go there, and then 6, 7 gets him there, but he's facing. He's not facing that direction.
Well, they
That's
started
right.
facing that way.
What?
I started facing that way. I was still in my setup.
Wow.
Oh, is this how it
Okay,
works?
well,
I'm gonna have to throw a
boy.
flag. I'm gonna
I
blow a
was
whistle
gonna
on that
say,
play.
You know what? Fortunately, it's the first turn
Yeah.
because that excuse isn't going to work after the first turn.
All right. What other ones do you want to
Well,
adjust
all right,
before
do it
you?
like that.
No, it's okay. Which other ones do you want to fix before you start doing stuff, Dave?
Are we happy there? You happy with that?
Not
Yeah,
a
that
whit
works.
cares Alcibiades.
All right. So 1. +1 going up the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 for the one side. So that's 4. And let's see. Now, is there regimental integrity with the command for here? Like if let's just say he was here, would these 2 guys be in command?
Yeah, because
Yes.
they're adjacent to
Yes.
their.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That keeps everybody in command, right?
That's what it looks like.
That's what we want. We want everybody to be
All right.
good Prussian soldiers and stay in command.
And this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me get this. Oh, where did I stick? There he is. And so he's got 1, 2 into road, right?
No, actually, it's a little more involved than that because it's actually
2,
to go
3.
into road. It's 1 plus the
That's
number of
1.
hex differences. Yeah,
All right.
that would be 1, 2, 3.
So he could get to there, and he's in road.
Yes.
Yep, yep.
Agreed. Agreed.
It's in column.
There we go.
Now, David, you
And
might want to have the other guys back since they're all. Is that all one regiment? Yeah. So if you had
Yeah.
them all
oh, I
here,
see.
if they
Okay,
were
I
all
see.
there, then they'd be within command. So that way, next turn, you wouldn't have that one guy who's left behind. They're all in command,
That's
and
right.
then they could all
That's right.
then maneuver.
Yep.
And Zeaton's there at the end of that. Okay, yep, that makes sense.
Okay. Yep. That looks good.
All right.
Flip a leader or
Yep,
so.
that day.
Very good. And if we're going to follow the pattern we did previously, then I guess it's Eric's turn.
All right, here we go. Oh, that's a big die roll. That's going to
that's
push
gonna
the turn.
advance the marker. Oh, wait a minute. Where's the end turn marker?
Well, the game turn marker is here, right?
No, but that's no good. We need an end turn marker in addition to the game turn marker.
Oh. Let's see if it's.
And there's supposed to be one on 0, of course, but there isn't.
Oh, that's what am I? I'm flipping the. Okay.
Yeah, that's not what you want to do there, David.
Yeah, I
Or
see.
Eric, rather. I'm sorry,
Where-
because you just
where-
flipped
that-
the.
yeah,
oh, I'm
what
not.
was-
I'm not doing anything. That's David's
I
getting
did
that
that.
one. Yeah.
Oh, well, knock it off.
Where's the end turn mark? Oh, there. It's next to that. The turn track. That's what I'm looking
Right.
for. Okay.
And we're desperately hoping we'd find. There's
So,
end turn.
It's
I
got a
found
little.
it.
It's got a little sunburst.
Yeah, I found it, and there it is, and now I moved it to 1.
Okay.
We okay now?
Yeah.
Why it wasn't there to start with, I don't know. But
Well, you know, the person who put this thing together,
they
gotta-
were paid very little for their
or
service.
probably not at all.
That's actually what I meant.
Yeah. You get what you pay for. All right.
Yeah,
Well, once
actually,
again,
I-
that's one for you
Another-
guys.
Okay.
It's another
I took my
Prussian.
dad to an air show yesterday, Veterans Day.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, as a World War II veteran, of course, he's a guest of honor. So we had VIP bracelets and the whole enchilada.
Right.
And it's not hard to get him to tell you stories. He's only too happy to tell you stories. And many times was he thanked for his service. And of course, he's not going to be rude to people to their face, but he's like, I did get drafted. It's like, yeah, I'm glad I did it, but like, it's not like I had a lot of choice. Okay.
Yeah. Did not do it willingly. Yes.
Don't give me too much credit for this.
All right. Well, the Prussians have this activation, so
All right, David.
Yeah, you want me to continue with?
Oh, you might as well. I don't know. I mean, you're the point of the spear here, brother.
you've got.
okay.
Is Michael is saying you've got a pointy head. I think that's pretty much
Yeah.
what it boils down to.
was hoping you wouldn't notice.
I've known you too long, Michael.
I'm afraid you have.
The skirmisher hit 2 hexes in this one like in the other?
Yeah. I mean, all
Probably.
units shoot 2 hexes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 hexes is no big deal.
So I have opportunity fire. I have defensive fire. I got all that good stuff.
All right.
Yeah, and if this is going to be anything like the real battle, then the skirmishers are going to be a real pain in the ass. But they really weren't in the battle that I fought solo, so I'm not really sure. It'll be interesting to see if it really pans out that way.
Now, I did notice that only the grenadiers and the Lieb Guard can do the
Oblique movement. Yeah.
oblique movement.
All your other
Oh,
guys.
really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody else has got to do the zigzag thing.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's great, and that's interesting because that wasn't in Prague,
Correct.
3.
which was a few weeks ago. So what, these guys suddenly forgot how to march? What's the matter with
Yeah.
these guys?
Well, can you get that far going up the slope?
Yeah, you only went. It's a +1, right?
So the slope is, +1.
Yeah.
So
He started
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I
right
guess so. Okay.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Five, 6. Or 1, 2. That's right. It's only +1 up that. Yeah. And I'm activating the grenadiers with them. Do they have to do any kind of roll, or are they just? Or they're within command?
They're within the command range of somebody. So
Yeah.
they are
Yeah.
fine and dandy in that regard.
1, 2, 3, and they can do the oblique.
Yep. They're magic.
And
Now, those guys should be facing a hex side since they're not unlimbered.
easy enough to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, that actually brings up a really good point. Do we wish to play with any optional rules?
I don't know of any optional rules other than the Austrians have a small tactical nuclear missile.
And no one who knows how to operate it.
Well, of course.
What is this thing? Oh,
Exactly. That's what caused that spot on the map to be blank.
Oh, of course it is. Yes, naturally.
Yeah, we dropped a small tactical nuke there, and it wiped out part of the hex grid.
Actually, seriously, I was at the White Sands missile range some years ago, and really nice people there. You know, they run this very sophisticated outfit, and they needed some telecommunications equipment to help them collect data from around the range.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not overwhelmed with people out there selling them stuff, so they're just super gracious and happy to see you. And we're visiting with them, and I just looking up at the map. Oh, is that the range? Yeah. What's that big red box on the range? And they all of a sudden have a funny look on their face. They don't want to be rude, but they also don't want to say. So they all kind of, we don't really.
We don't talk about that big red box.
It was really funny. We're just gonna okay, well, wow, the story practically writes itself, right?
There you go.
What nuclear missile got lost up there and no one's found it since? I mean, I had no idea, but it was so funny to watch their whole demeanor totally change when we point to the red box.
Yeah. That's actually where the alien craft landed.
I guess it's just north of the Kaiserstrasse. That's what we know
Yeah.
now from looking at this map. Um, right. So, trying to think about what optional rules matter. One that I'm kind of a fan of is if the attacker rolls a fire combat and it ends with a 0, that causes a return fire instead of using the R on the actual fire combat chart. Does that make sense?
So, okay, I'm looking at the fire combat chart.
Right.
All right, and this is only for fire combat. It's not
That's
for
right. Oh
opportunity
yeah.
fire, defensive
No,
fire. Okay.
that's right. Yeah, for just regular fire combat.
So if I rolled, for example, I'm on the, I don't know, the 1-to-1 chart, and I rolled a 6-0, you're saying then that would trigger a return fire. But if I rolled a 61 or a 62, that wouldn't. So a 50 or
Right.
60 would trigger the R. So what happens with the R since we've never played with that?
Well, so let me be clear. So the way the rules are written is that R means that the defender gets to fire.
Okay.
Now, the way that it's constructed here in this is that basically your attacking fire never really happens. Because that is the combat result, is R, which means the other guy gets to shoot at you. And to me, that just doesn't make any sense. It's like, wait a minute. So I come up and I shoot at you, but I'm unsuccessful and you shoot at me instead? So the idea instead was that the two incidences are orthogonal to each other. It doesn't matter whether you actually successfully fire or not. If you roll anything ending in a 0, the defender gets to fire back. So, to your example there,
Right.
if you played with the rules as written, anything from a 50 to a 69 on 1-to-1 would result in a return fire, but no impact on the defenders.
Right.
Only the return fire. Whereas with the optional rule, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, all of those result in return fire.
Oh, okay.
Some of them, by the way, also result in impact on the defender.
Right.
Because why would it be one or the other? Why can't it be both?
So the question is that then simultaneous?
I'd have to look at the optional rule to see exactly if it's
Right,
supposed to be
because if it's a
simultaneous.
case where,
I think it might be, but I'm not sure.
you inflict 2 hits and then there's a morale
Right.
check,
And-
do you
and the
calculate
defenders-
the yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me look. I'm sure the optional rule says.
So why is it that you hadn't played with the R before? You just don't like it, or I mean, to a
Well-
certain extent it gives,
We've mostly been able to ignore the R because most of the time it doesn't come up.
right.
It's only come up very rarely in the games that we've played because it only comes up on offensive fire, and it only comes up if you hit those particular numbers. But I just find it just kind of unsatisfying. What are we even trying to model here?
Well,
I'm
I
just
think
trying-
it's the case that you aim too high, you aim too low, you missed, and the other guy gets a shot off at you. Because otherwise, this is the thing that as someone who plays La Bataille, I'm used to. You move up, the defender gets to fire, and then the attacker
Right.
gets to fire. In this particular case, that you're only getting defensive fire when you actually come up for close combat. So you move adjacent, and if it's a command I've already activated, then I don't get to shoot at you until the next turn, kind of a thing. I mean, obviously there's opportunity fire, I guess. So maybe
Sure there
that
is.
counts
Absolutely there
as
is.
the defensive fire. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I don't
we
know.
we can mess around with it, but
I like what it. Well, here's one thing it does. It adds a little bit of spice because let's say you have a chance to fire at 1 to 3.
mm-hmm.
Well, your chances of doing anything are very low. But by the way, you just gave the enemy a 10% chance of being able to fire back at you.
Right. So then that's going to make you wonder about or
Why would I bother?
right.
Why would I bother doing 1 to 3 just pot shots? It just
Right.
seems like it just simplifies things, right? It's like, you know what? There's more downside than there is upside to me. So, yeah, never mind.
Well, and it's interesting too in that in some of the odds, the chances of return fire
We're different.
are different, right? So
Yeah,
like in the 1 to 3, it's a 10% chance.
right.
Either way you do it. 1 to 2, it's a 10%
But it's
chance. But
20% at 1 to 1.
yeah, yeah,
It's like, what does that even mean? What are we modeling?
yeah. Well,
Um,
that's one for Matthew.
well, that's why he wrote the optional rule.
Right.
Because I mean, basically, this fire table is the original one. Nothing's been changed
Yeah.
meaningfully. I mean, the format's been changed, but it's the same. Um, so here was the comment he made. It has been noted that there is an inequality in the return fire rules in that sometimes units are penalized for having a plus modifier to their fire, which then puts the roll in the return fire range. And it has also been questioned as to why higher rolls cannot also bring a return fire. This simple rule allows for a much more random generation of return fire. And that's actually an interesting point. Because you're right, if you roll badly
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have a plus modifier, then nothing happens. But if you roll badly and you have a plus modifier, it actually makes return fire happen.
Right.
Again, what are we modeling?
Right.
It's just kind of weird. And so let's see what it says. On a regular fire combat roll, if the natural die roll is not a special result and ends in 0, so 10, 20, 30, whatever,
Right.
then use an R return fire result applied after all effects of the first fire have been calculated. This random R result is used instead of the R column or the R row, he meant to say, on the fire combat chart. Return fire is still at the player's option and itself cannot cause an R result.
Right.
So, I don't know. I like that one just because I could not figure out what the R was supposed to be modeling on the fire chart. It just seemed weird to me.
Interesting.
Yeah. Definitely makes sense.
Another one that we used in the last game we didn't use, but we talked about, and that is with enfilade firing, it should always just shift the fire column by 1. Instead of changing the fire multiplier, which sometimes doesn't actually change anything,
Right.
it seems like you should get some benefit out of it.
Yeah.
So it should just move the column 1. So if you go from ×5, which means I have 10, which is 1 to 1. Well,
Right.
going to ×6 doesn't do you anything because it's going to be 12, which is still going to be 1 to 1. What's the, so I'm shooting at your enfilade, but it got me nothing.
Right.
So I kind of like that one, where whenever a firing unit has enfilading fire, instead of adding 1 to the unit's fire multiple, shift the odds column 1 to the right. This is cumulative with other calculations and column shifts. If a fire would be below the 1 to 3 column and it has an enfilade, it is resolved on the 1 to 3 column.
Yeah.
If
No, I like that
fire-
rule. That makes sense. I like the return fire. Let's use those. Those make sense.
Okay. All right. Good. I just wanted to see if there were any others that were a big deal. I I don't want to do the multiple fire effects. I think it's too burdensome. I do it when I play solitaire, but I don't expect other people to do it.
Oh, is that where the smoke builds up and your fire becomes less effective, kind of a thing?
Yeah, where every time a unit fires, it decrements in 5 from the die roll.
Okay.
So if you're sitting there and it effectively really bothers artillery because they can fire at 3 hex range. Because you
Right.
might be able to fire 6 times. It's just like that's unreasonable. Uh, so, but nevertheless, it does require some record keeping. So
You guys
get
used
how
that when you were playing Chotuzits, I think.
I think we might have. Did we,
Yeah.
David?
Yeah, I
Yes.
remember. I
Okay.
remember seeing the little markers you guys
Okay.
put down when you'd fired your
And
muskets.
I'm not opposed to it. Far from it. I'm actually I'm fond of it because I don't really care for the MG42 effect. I call it. That's kind of ridiculous.
Right.
But I mean, only if we agree that it's something we're willing to do would I
Mhm.
suggest it.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with any of those right at the moment. I mean,
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, and basically all I do for the multiple fire effect is I just put a marker on top of the unit
Mhm.
to indicate that it's fired once. A loss marker effectively, but on top, so it's unambiguous that it's not anything to do with
Okay,
the
as
unit's
someone who doesn't
strength.
like tracking ammunition in Labatai, I'd rather not have to worry about that rule.
I mean, it's okay with me.
Uh,
All right. So let me make sure I've got this right. So there was something here about close combat. In the standard bar rules, a unit's combat value for close combat is halved when it takes 50% or more SP losses.
mhm.
This method affects units with better combat values more heavily than lesser ones. That is to say, a +6 CV unit becomes +3, whereas a +1 remains a +1. For players who would like every unit to be affected by losses more or less evenly, change the rule to simply subtract 2 from the printed CV if the current SP losses are 50% or more than the printed value. Of course, -2 is going to be pretty close to what most people are going to suffer anyway, right? +3 and +4 are pretty common sorts of combat value numbers, so it's not going to change that much.
Yeah, but if
But it
you're
would be
+3, now you'd be halved,
now
but
you'd
you
be
round up.
well,
Do you round
you
up or round
have
down?
that's right, you would be. You're right. If you're a +3 under the rules as written, you'd only be a +2,
Right.
whereas under this, you'd be a +1.
Yeah.
So
this is
a little
where,
different.
like, Labatai has it where it's proportional to your losses, affects your
Right.
melee value. So with this, if you did it proportional by percentage, then that would make more
Well,
sense than trying to shoehorn it into, it's half this or it's half that or something. But
well, it's the rule as written
yeah.
makes it proportional, right? It's half, but it's
Mhm.
half rounded.
Right.
And so that's different if you're a +1 unit versus a +6 unit. The +6 unit really gets penalized. The +1 unit doesn't get penalized at all. There aren't very many +1 units.
I was going
on
to
that
say
rule.
how many +6 units are there?
There aren't very many of those either. So you know what? I mean, I'm okay just playing that with
Just
the
leave
rule
it
as
as
written.
is. Yeah. I
We're
don't
already
think we need
familiar with
to.
that one.
Don't confuse
I
me
was
anymore.
no, and that's fine. And it's only because we played once or twice that I was even willing to bring these up as just kind of things.
Right.
I'm just looking. There was another one that. This is the reason that any of this came up. It was limbered artillery and movement. That's why this came up. So in bar games, the movement of limbered artillery can be problematic in that it is difficult to move them in front of an advancing army. This is because of their generally low movement allowances and also the hex side facing of limbered units compared to infantry in line, which faces a hex point. So the rule goes that when artillery units change formation to limbered, they may be faced towards a hex point instead of the normal hex side.
Oh,
When facing a hex point, limbered artillery will move as any other formation that faces a hex point, such as line, and can do oblique movement without penalty. If any limbered artillery unit that faces a hex side should wish to change its facing to a hex point, pay 1 movement point and adjust the facing to either of the hex points adjacent to the hex side. The reverse of this procedure can be performed for limbered artillery that faces a hex point. Limbered artillery that is facing a hex point may not stack with any non-artillery units, and all artillery units in the hex must have the same facing and formation. Oh, that's weird. I'm trying to figure out what the point of that was. I thought the whole point of it was that you could have limbered artillery and infantry stacked together, and it doesn't look like you can. That last rule just undid the whole thing for me.
Well, I think more of it is the so it can
you
keep
have a
up
little bit
with.
more freedom of movement if you can enter either two front hex sides instead of just one front hex side. Right?
Yes, that's true. Yes, because you're right. That is a real problem for artillery, that if you need to scooch across the hex grain, you spend up all of your movement
Yeah. It costs one to
on
turn and this and that.
turning on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, that's interesting. That's not what I was thinking it was for, but um, that is a good purpose for it, because otherwise it makes artillery deadly slow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So for all that I misunderstood that one, that is one that I think we ought to consider.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind that because I got a bunch of artillery I got to try to move.
Yeah, and so do we, because we're
Yeah.
in the attack after
Yeah.
all. So
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. So let's see if there's anything else I want to do that makes any sense at all.
Where did you find the optional rules?
Yeah.
They're on the bar website.
Oh, okay.
If you go to the it's a Google sites.google.com, but it's the same place you pulled the other ones. If you click on bar and go to that page, there's a bar optional rules PDF file.
Right.
And I think there's one that sometimes comes up that I'd kind of at least want to talk about with you. And that is reaction movement. In order to leverage the rules, gamers can sometimes resort to ahistorical behavior by having units make circuitous marches in order to pin units in the flank. Once the enemy is pinned, the moving player then brings up more troops without fear of an upcharge or other reaction. While this march is made, the potential victims twiddle their collective thumbs until they are pinned. For those who do not think this should happen, these rules are offered. So basically the idea is, if during its movement phase, an active enemy unit moves into a hex or expends any movement points in a hex 2 hexes away from a non-active artillery or infantry unit, or 2 or 3 hexes away from a non-active cavalry unit, the non-active unit may react to the enemy move. This reaction movement follows all the same rules as close combat defender reaction, which we're familiar with, where you can change facing when you're being charged. A reacting unit can do one of the following: make 1 or 2 hex point or hex side facing changes, move forward or backward 1 hex, or make a formation change that involves up to a 1 hex alteration in size. Note that op charge for the reacting player is not part of reaction movement. It occurs through the normal bar procedures. Only one reaction move can be made per unit or enemy stack that is moving. A unit cannot keep moving in response to a single unit's move. Disordered units or units in an EZOC may not use reaction movement. Because reaction movement is being done by the non-active player, it doesn't trigger op fire, op charge. And reacting skirmishers must make a morale check at the end of the reaction move. This is per the normal defender reaction rule. Non-skirmishers must make a disorder check. So the idea is somebody can't just march up and hit you in the flank while you're standing there.
Right.
You get a chance to react. Now, to be fair, the reality of things are you're going to turn. You might get disordered because you got to take a disorder check.
Right.
You might get disordered. And by the way, you've just opened your other flank up.
Right.
So it's not like it's it's not like it's free.
Right.
But it is also, it's just like nobody's going to stand there and just let you come do that.
Right.
We let you react to a charge, but we don't let you react to normal movement, which you'd argue would be even easier to react to because it's probably slower. So anyway, that's what that one's about.
Cool.
Okay,
So-
I'm still trying to digest that. Okay, so all right, so it's kind of like the same reaction movement in the charge phase,
Yes.
but it's just a normal them coming up.
And it's
Right.
for anybody. It's not just for cavalry. It's for infantry too.
In fact,
Correct.
yes. So for infantry and artillery, it's 2 hex range, and for cavalry, it's 3 hex range. And all it is you can move forward or back a hex. You can change facing, or you can what was the other thing? Oh, you can change formation to add a hex.
Huh. Interesting.
So but again, you can only do it once in response to one unit's movement.
Right.
So for example, the classic example is somebody comes up, you think, oh shit, he's getting hit in the flank. You turn to your right, you do a disorder check. He comes in, and now you're in his zone of control. Well, somebody else comes and moves up. They can hit you in the other flank that you just exposed.
Right.
On the other hand, you may decide just to back up a step.
Yeah.
And that may make it impossible for him to hit you in the flank because you got out of his way and he couldn't get you in the flank because you're too far away now.
Right.
That would be a thing. It just makes it so that you're not a sitting duck just because it's the other guy's turn.
So my suggestion, Michael, is that David and I take a look at that optional rule and kind of read it and think about it a little bit.
Totally. I
yeah.
think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So far we've agreed to the
Okay.
Blank fire and
the return fire, and then what
Yep.
was the
flank fire.
oh yeah, flank fire and the return fire
Right.
thing. Okay.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
then
Yep.
was everybody on board with having the limbered artillery face vertex?
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool.
Okay.
With that.
Yeah.
I'm
Now
cool
that
with
I
that too.
understand it better, actually. Okay. All right. And then you guys can look over reaction movement and decide what you think of it. It
Okay.
won't matter tonight anyway.
Yeah.
And then I think there was one that David, you and I actually used at Chatuzits, I think. And that was that once you reach the last column of the Army morale chart, there's not much incentive to keep pounding the enemy because they're on the farthest right column. So this says for every 50 points of losses, that an
Oh,
army
yeah.
is sustained beyond the army's maximum loss level, add 1 to the die roll for the morale check. So, if 250 is your last column and you need to do an army morale check and you're at 300, well, then you roll again on that column, but this time with a +1 to your die roll.
Yep.
And the idea behind that is most gamers don't play bar to the bitter end. At some point, it becomes obvious who's the winner and who concedes. But for those who do want to play to the end, it has been noted that once an army reaches its maximum army morale loss column, there is no incentive to continue to inflict losses on them. So this option is for those who want to grind the losing army down even further. And who doesn't? All right. So, like I said, David and I have already used that one. And I mean, obviously, it won't matter for hours and hours.
Right.
But whatever.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, so you know where this is, so you can download
Yep,
it
yep,
and take
yep.
a look at it. And there's good stuff there. But because the limbered artillery pointing at a hex point was a thing, that's why it came up. So I
Yeah.
apologize for the distraction. But there you go.
Yeah, no, I kind of like it because sometimes you're trying to avoid a slope and you've got to then turn and this and that and so with this you can kind of
Yeah.
maneuver a little bit more easily.
It means that the 4 that an infantry unit has and the 4 an artillery unit has can mean closer to the same thing, where previously they didn't really mean the same thing at all.
Right. Okay, cool.
All right.
All right,
where were we?
David, why don't you go ahead and throw some dice?
Yep.
That's going to be a tie.
I think it is.
Yep. 'Cause you have actually no. We're still looking at the.
no.
In fact, we messed up. It was a tie on my
last
roll,
one
which
was a
was an
tie?
8-6, right?
You're right. That was a tie.
Yeah, we were so used to having the Prussians on
That's right.
the other side. Well, it
All right.
doesn't
So
matter.
this is the one that David should have done then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
okay.
right. So go ahead and roll the dice again.
All right.
This time the Prussians. So it's a 3-7. So
Okay,
this
that's
time.
a wing
That's a
for
wing
the
for
Prussians,
Yep.
right? Okay.
Yep.
All right. And you've moved most of Zeaton's wing already, so I don't know if you want to
Zeaton's
move
wing.
Trisk.
Yeah, Zeaton's wing is moved. So.
All right. Well, then you move Trisko's wing. And you don't even have to roll for it because they're all like practically smelling the king's breath.
Yeah.
So, a question, David. I don't see any special reason for us to prevent David or Eric from hearing this, but given what we know about Moritz's special capability, we probably want to separate them. There's no reason to have them near each other. So, do we want to move Moritz west?
What's the 2 wings he can give? It's Treshow and then the other one
And
over further
Bever,
west.
the other infantry one.
Yeah. I was gonna let you control those 2 guys. So whatever.
Okay, that's
Right.
fine. All right, so then I'll worry about them later, but I just at least wanted to talk about it because it is kind of nice that the king can kind of stay over on one side without completely abandoning the other side. All right, well, very well. Carry on with old Trescow.
Old Trescow here. All right, so I'm going to go 1, and these are probably Fusiliers or Musketeers, right?
Well, they're
Yep.
definitely not
They're
grenadiers.
Musketeers.
And yeah, we'll go 2, 3. Actually, let's go 3. Let's go.
All righty.
And 1, 2, 3 on that one. And on artillery, there's no restriction on oblique movement, right?
That's right. It specifically said that they were free to oblique.
All right.
All right, you going to concede yet, Eric?
Yep, I give up.
Okay. Yep. I mean, it was pretty much the move there.
Yeah. I mean,
All right, I will roll.
Oh, wait a minute. I still got some other guns here.
Oh, yeah.
Guns of August.
Yeah. Now,
Ooh.
these guys are, well, they're automatically kind of in well, no, they aren't, are they?
Ooh.
Trying to think if they, what the, I should have probably started with those in road column on there.
Who are you referring to? I'm confused. Those guys? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, no, they're certainly not in road column unless you say so.
Yeah. Well, I didn't, so let's do boom. And what's artillery through this?
It's
I
clear
don't
terrain.
know.
That is.
Is it?
It's just, it looks nice, but it's clear terrain.
Hmm. That's really what you want. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Well,
Anything
actually,
else?
Let's change that just slightly. Since that was clear, I'll put them there. All right.
He's getting tricky.
Oh,
Make
you
me
can
make
tell.
me nervous. Yeah.
He is lining you up, brother.
Yep. Yep.
You feel like a bowling pin because it's coming.
Well, I feel like a bowling pin that hasn't been set on the aisle yet. So
Okay. Well, here we're
Yeah.
going to chuck some dice and you're going to
Yeah.
see what happens.
that's not good enough for me. It's another one for
We get-
you.
You get to move again. I
And
mean,
you guys just let me know when it's my turn. Just to
Yeah,
text message me. I'm gonna go make a bourbon and 7.
Yeah, this is to you, Michael, because I've moved everybody.
no, I got it. I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do next. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and move Krakow, not to be confused with Trescow. Krakow, who's this guy right here. And he's actually so close to the king that he doesn't even need to relate himself back over to Penavere. So he'll just go ahead and move. And this is where I love the San Andreas fault between the center map and the east and the center map. It's like all of a sudden, like time and space get warped, probably because of the nuclear bomb that went off just above us.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's probably it. And all right, so everybody's in command, no problem, and we will 1, 2. The villages don't matter either, do they?
The villages cost 3 for the cavalry to move into, and they
Really?
would
Is that a
cause
village?
a disorder check.
All right, then we'll just stop right there.
Yeah.
I'm not in a rush.
Oh, and in fact, you should have made disorder checks for all the guys that went across the stream over here. When you moved your cavalry.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a very good point. You're quite right.
Yeah.
Quite right. Yeah. Can you remember which ones they were?
They were, well, it would have been these 2 guys here, and probably all 3 of these guys here, and one of these guys there. So I know all 3 of these were on this side of the creek. I know all 3 of these were on this side of the stream.
And this were in between, and I think they
Yeah.
were.
And
I
then
think it was
2
just
of these
those 5.
guys were on that side. So, and then
Yeah.
maybe one of these guys, and the other guy was they were straddling it.
They were back here. I think just these three and this one, those five.
Okay.
But start with it. Yeah. Okay. All right.
He's happy.
This one.
He's happy. Next guy.
This one.
He's happy. He's happy. He may or may not be happy. I don't know what his morale is.
I don't think he is.
Oh, so he's disordered. No big deal.
And the last one. Oh no, the last one did. That was it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. All right. So you've moved your guys, Michael. Okay. All right. So now it's my role for initiative. Yes. No.
Yep.
Okay. Here we go. It's the Prussians again.
Sorry, I muted. I thought you could hear me and you could not hear
No.
me. My bad.
All right. More Prussians
but we
get to
do.
move.
We do advance
Oh,
the
yes, we
end
move the
turn marker
clock.
to dos. And yet another Prussian move.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Shocking. All right. Then I will go ahead and do Penaver's Meineke, the guy who does your muffler.
There you go.
He's right here, and I will use these grenadiers at the same time. So they will all activate, and let's see, Penaver's right there, so they're in command, so there's no reason to worry about that. So we'll just move, and we'll move 1, 2, 3, 4 by the grenadiers, and then I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, I think, for the, well, except it'll be 5 because
Right.
some of them are going to up the slope, but otherwise not a big deal. And so that is all good there. Hardly even need to say anything further. And I love these old school, like 1970s looking finished markers. Like, really, really awesome. All right, so that should be it for those guys.
All right. Time for David to throw some dice. That's another one for the Prussians.
You know, you might almost think that we're going to run the whole table before you get a chance to move.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
Well, you make it
Like,
sound like a
how
problem.
am I supposed to redeploy my army when I haven't been able to move?
Oh, well, we'll give you plenty of time.
Oh,
Trust
I
me.
have to hope I can pull it off.
Yeah. All right. Then I guess we will do. What's his name?
That narrows it down.
It does.
Bob.
It does. There's Bob. You know Bob.
It's a very
Bob's your
German,
uncle.
Bob is my uncle.
very
Actually, that's not
German-sounding
true.
name.
I did have an uncle Bob, but he was actually not an uncle. It was just one of those people that we were just told to call Uncle Bob, even though, like, his name was McCormick and we were named McAlpin. So I don't know. I don't know. It's just weird. Okay. I guess we will do Ponvitz. This is so funny that we're getting all these names that we're familiar with, right? From the
Yeah,
last battle. And I guess I'll go ahead and add all the artillery behind him. Because
cool.
why not? All right. And he is probably not in command if I had to guess.
Well, he is drawing to Bevern, who's
6,
over here.
7, 8, 9. Actually, the king can reach him directly. Thanks to the magic of the Kaiserstrasse.
There you
Don't
go.
even need Bevern.
Well, does
All right.
Bevern, does his command use the road, or it's only the army commander that uses the road?
Any commander to commander
Okay.
connection is via the road. So it's only like from a command leader to his individual units that requires that you not use the road.
Okay.
All right. So if I did this and I say 1, and then if I do this, it becomes 2, 3, except for this guy for whom it becomes 4.
Yep.
Okay. We all right with that so far?
Yep.
Good. And then we will do 1, 2, and just call that good. I'm going to mark that as finished. Ooh, I didn't realize we were going to do it to all of them. That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
And flip him over. I didn't realize it was going to work quite so smoothly, quite so slickly. All right. Is that back to me for
Yep.
a
We've
roll?
gone full circle.
Okay.
Oh,
Dear.
finally. Oh, no, it's not.
We were doing so well. We were doing so well. And now it's
Here
a
I thought,
5.
oh, finally I get an activation. And no.
No, not really.
No, not really. It's
Well, it
something
could
that
be good or
happens to
bad.
it. Free combat segment.
Oh,
Pick one
Is that what it
command.
is?
Pick one command for possible fire combat CC segment.
Oh, hold on. Because I'm
And
realizing we
possible
may have this.
independence.
We may have the same problem we had with Monmouth, because that's not what the Vassal model says.
Oh, this is what I
So-
downloaded.
yeah.
no,
we're-
and you're right. That's what you should use. But I just wanted you to be aware that if you use the one in the Vassal module, it's not the same. So yeah, free combat segment. All right. Probably doesn't mean much to you right now.
Well, he's
Well,
got
I've
some
got an artillery that can fire over
All
here
right,
by
then.
Kretsch Corps.
Well then, you do it, brother.
So it's worth
You show us.
poking the eye. I'm sure I'll get an R result.
I hope so. It won't matter unless you're firing at artillery, of course.
Yeah, I'm firing artillery at, I guess this guy here I can shoot at, right? 1, 2, 3. 3 hexes. So I'm times what? 3 pounders, I'm times 2. So I'm 4 to 10.
1 to 3.
And then there's a plus 10 for the unit size, if I'm looking at that correctly.
Because it's an 8.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Let's roll some dice. 86 plus 10 is going to be a
It's pretty
96.
Pretty close.
That's an R result.
Except it's not.
Except it's not, yes.
And he couldn't shoot at you at a 3x range anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Well,
Well,
that was
you
my
made
big
it
exciting
interesting.
shot. That was
All
the
right,
first
that was
potential. All right.
very nice.
So Michael,
All right.
roll
Roll
again. 54. That's another one
Prussian
for you.
move. Another Prussian move. Oh my gosh, what'll we do?
Well, at least he's going to be, when he finally does get to move, he'll see.
He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, he'll see
That's right.
everything we've done.
Yeah, there won't be a lot of mystery. Okay, I'm gonna do Norman. Norman. That doesn't sound like a very German name. Right here.
Okay.
And Norman is in command at the moment. And he's going to do 1 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How do you like them apples? Never saw
Exciting.
that coming, did you?
I did not.
No, you did not. Eric, it's over to you.
Here we go. Let's see if I finally get anything. It's a
Get a
tie.
tie.
All right, here we go. Let's try it again. That's another one for you.
Okay. This is great. I'm loving it. Okay. Then I guess we'll do who's next here. This would be Monstein. We all know him, right?
Yeah.
I remember him from the last time. Yeah. Again, he's in command because he's right there by Bevern, who's in command. So then 1, 2, 3, and we'll just leave it at that. So then I will flip him over. All right.
It's over to you, David.
Okay. Boom. Hey, you get a wing.
I get a wing. A wing and a
Holy
prayer.
moly! You just tilted our whole hand, pal.
Well, and it does advance the clock, right?
Ooh,
It
well done
certainly
you. I
does.
forgot about that.
Yep.
Let me do that for you. Got it.
Oh my goodness gracious. So, what do I need to do? I've got so many things that need to be dealt with here. Well, I'm gonna use it over here on Nadajdi, who's my light cavalry leader out here on the far end of the universe. Now, do I have to
Wow.
roll for him to see if he's in? He's an 8. There's a good chance he'll make it.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say you got a 1 in 10 chance of failing. So yeah, he is a long way from your leader.
Yeah.
So
My leader's
yes,
on
he
the
would
western
need-
map. Yeah.
He would need to roll in order to be able to do the wing activation. If he fails, there is no activation, and we go back to initiative. But in this case, though, come on.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you only live once. Here we go. A
There
2.
you go.
Hooray.
Oh,
So they passed. All right. So here we're going to move Haddock the Paddock.
Oh, that Haddock.
That Haddock,
Oh.
yeah.
Some of his troops survived Prague.
No, he survived Prague. These are people who all.
These are completely different units.
Yeah, probably people. Maybe there's a few that are people that live to fight another day somewhere else. All right, so what the heck am I going to do over here? I'm getting attacked all over the place. All right, so we'll go ahead and start here, and we're going to turn. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this guy's gonna turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll turn him here. No, we'll keep him there. And 6, 7, we'll put him there. All right, these guys are going to turn. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this guy's going to do the same thing here. And this guy's going to do the same thing here. Yeah, okay. All right. And he's going to move here. And he's done. All right, these other guys. Ugh, what a mess. What a mess. these chaps over here are out of command. They're part of this guy's group. So we can move them, and they're going to move 4, correct? So that's going to be...
Yes, if they're
yeah,
out of command.
yeah. So there's 1, 2, 3 gets him there. There's 1, 2, 3 and a half gets him there. So all of these guys can get right there. And they've done their little movement thing.
There's no plus going down the hill?
There is.
No.
Oh, is there not?
Oh, yeah.
It
there's
says
a
slope.
plus.
It's plus 1/2.
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're going up or down.
Yeah. So there was. So that's why these guys, that's why he only went 3 and the others all used 3.5 to get there. Yeah. All right. All right, these guys are going to turn. Which way? 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. And this guy will go here. Whoops. This guy will go here. 6. And this guy will go here. 6. All right, these guys are going to turn. And do I want to go there or not? Let me think about it. It's a better place that I can go. 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right. This guy's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 that way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over here. This guy's going to go here and turn. 1, 2, 3. Whoops. All right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right. I think that's okay for the moment. Okay. All right. That's my little wing.
Well, there's major entertainment there.
Well, good. It's time for, I don't know whose turn it is to throw the dice now.
I was wondering that myself.
Well,
I think David rolled the last one.
I think he did.
All right, so it's me.
Yep. That's another one for the bad guys. I mean, the Prussians.
No. Never. All right. What do we got here? How can I bring the hammer down on you now? All right, we'll go ahead and do Putkamer, who is up here. Not a name I recognize. And where's Penavere? Is way down the road, so he's not in command. Doesn't matter because he's not going to go. Okay, so he's not in command, but it doesn't matter because we're not going to do anything elaborate. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, and call it a day. And that's it. Eric?
All right, here we go. Oh, that's another one for you, and that's a wing.
Wing, if we had one.
Wing a ding ding.
I don't think we do. In fact, what do we got? We got
Well, it looks like you got
2 of Penavere's cavalry left.
Crossix and
And then this guy out on the far end, Shonach. He got killed at Prague.
Oh dear.
Yep.
Well,
This
it's
is
his twin brother.
Yep. His younger brother.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the 2 left is Shonach and then the other one who's Krozig. Okay. However, Penavere can't reach all of them. Nope, can't quite. So there's no point in making it a wing activation, so I won't bother. All right, we'll go ahead and do Shonach himself, and he'll roll for himself. I'm sure he's in fine shape there. And then I will move a few guys up. So these guys are going to get very skinny to fit in that hex. Do that there. Then what is he? There we go. All right, that's enough for that. David, I think you're next.
Okey-doke.
There we go. We finally keep moving the thing down the track. Otherwise, we're going to let him get too many activations.
Yeah.
All right. So that is another wing for me, if I'm reading that correctly. My wing activation
Yeah, I
is a
think
7.
it would be 7, right?
Yep. And that is more than double.
Yep, it is.
Not more than double. It's exactly
It
double.
is double.
Exactly double.
Good enough.
Double trouble. So if I do a wing activation, I got to roll for my wing leader to see if they can pull it off. Is that correct? So I have to take a look and see if these guys are worth a damn. He's not bad, actually.
Unless the wing leader can actually reach.
No, I
The
mean
army leader
the
directly.
army leader is like 500 miles away.
Wow.
Yeah, he's way
never
over
mind
here on
then.
the west side of the map. So I could activate Cordelio. Yeah, he's got 2. What's he got? He's got 2 brigades. Because they're not using divisions yet, are they? For these wings? It's wings and brigades?
Yeah, I don't know what we call the actual individual commands. I think they just generically call them commands. And so it's like Army Wing Command.
Right.
That's all we call it in the game. But yeah, what they would have called it, I'm not 100% sure. So which one are you doing?
I think I'm going to try to do this one over here, which is where they're actually in command.
Guide me.
So I'm where it has fancy lettering saying the Battle of Kolin.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
So there's
Okay.
Dawn. There's there's the wing commander. There's one of the brigade commanders. There's the other brigade commander.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Colorado, and he's got his 2 Puebla and Sincere.
Right.
Right. Okay, and then whoever's in reach of those commanders can join in with the wing activation then.
Right. So I got a bunch of units that are out of command, right? Or they're out of range.
Yeah.
So these guys are out of range. These guys are out of range.
So they
1, 2,
all
3,
would
4.
activate at the same time because their commanders are activating, but they would be at half movement.
Let's see. So so these guys and these guys are out, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess these guys are in range because they're all, and I'll activate this artillery at the same stroke.
Okay.
So, okay. Well, let me go ahead and move some people around. So, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Oh, this is a grenadier. He's part of it, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, actually, they can go further than that. They're in column. I keep forgetting that. Okay, so that would have been, so that's not actually 3. That would be 1.5 to get there.
And he was in command when he started.
Yeah.
So.
And so then, so let me move this guy back to where he was. And this guy back here. So 1, 2, 3. So 1.5. And then he's going to turn. That's 2.5. And then that's going to be 3. And then 4 is he's there facing that way. If I'm doing that correctly, right? So there's 1, 1.5. And then that's 2.5. 3.
3, yeah.
Right,
and then 4.
He turns 4.
Yep.
Okay.
That's right. Yep.
And so then this guy can go 1, 2.5. And then going across the stream
that's 1
is plus 0.5, right? So it's 1, 2, 2.5, 3.5 gets him there. All right.
Okay.
And let me put my leader back here. Let me go ahead and roll for these guys and see if they disorder.
That's
nope,
4.
They don't.
That's 4 to there. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, they have 4 movement, right?
No, but crossing the creek, though, he's still...
Crossing the creek costs 0.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crossing the stream, though, does require the disorder check.
Yeah, he did.
So,
right. So there's a difference between the creek. The creek is this one over here.
That's
and
right.
This
which
is
won't
these are
ever
the
come
streams.
Into play. These are all streams. Yeah, really, streams are all we're ever going to deal with.
All right. So this one's 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And then this guy is 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And then this guy back here can only move half. So that's 1, 2. And these guys here are going to move half as well. So this guy's going to go 1, 2. And this guy is 1, 2 gets him there. And that's 1.5 gets him there, right? Okay.
Is that a steep slope?
No.
No, I think the steep slopes are all
Steep slopes
somewhere.
are out over here, I think. Over to the east. They've got
Are
a
there?
darker color to them.
Okay.
Um,
All right. Just wanted to be sure.
Okay. All right. And then this chap that's 1, 2, 3, right? And 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. All right. And then this guy, I don't want to go over the top of the. So I'm going to turn. That's 1, 2. 2.5. 3. We'll just leave him there, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 1, 2, 2.5, 3.5, 1, 2, 2.5, 3.5. Okay, and then my leaders, this guy will move here. And then there's my corps leader. And Ferenstein is my wonderful artillery leader. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll throw him out there. 5. We'll get him heading somewhere where he can be useful. All right, and then Dawn. We'll park him over here, right? I think he can get there. He moves 8. And the leaders are half movement, right? Yeah, in clear. Okay.
Yeah.
And then going across the stream.
There isn't a real big difference between those steep and the regular slope, is there?
It's hard to see. But yes, if you look carefully, if you see
They're a
them
little
next to each
darker.
other,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's not like in some of the other maps where they actually have some black worked into them.
So
Here,
if I move Dawn, then I don't get the plus? Or is that not? I can't remember. So I should not move him until the end, or
yeah, you try not to move him to the end just to increase your chances of continuing to get
okay. So
activations.
I'll leave him where he's at. I'll move him then at the end.
I mean, I guess strictly speaking, it doesn't change much because we're about to run out of commands. And ultimately, if we win one, we have to give it to you if we don't have any. But yeah, I mean, in general, you try to move them last.
Well, so my question is like, if I were to move him and then I get a wing activation and somebody is now within command of him because I moved him, does that wing activation happen? Or is it only at the beginning of the turn if the wing leader was there?
The wing leader himself could not have activated already. But that's an interesting question. Let me take a look and see what the wording is for Army leader LOC.
I think it's determined at the beginning of the turn, but
I'm just trying to think what happens when the army leader moves. Mm, I think what I'm seeing is that it's at the moment you activate. So if the leader moves, the army leader moves, you might gain some advantage from it because he's moved and you can trace LOC to him. But of course, you've lost your initiative.
Right.
That may be to your disadvantage. So I think it's up to you at that point whether that's worth it.
Well, at this point, you've only got what, one command left that hasn't
I
activated?
think so. Yeah. Yeah. So you don't stand to lose very much.
Yeah. And then I could potentially get a wing activation if I get him. So I
Got
might as well move
closer
him.
to
Yeah.
somebody.
So, do they have a thing going down slope? Leaders, it costs 1 to go down a slope. Okay. So that's 1. So +1. So that's 1.5, 2, 3, 4, 4.5. Going across the stream is +1. So that's going to be 5.5 gets him there. 6 gets him there. 7 gets him there. And 8 gets him there. Okay. I'll move him there for what it's worth. All right.
Alrighty then. Gosh, I have no idea who's next.
I don't know that it matters.
No, not much.
Why don't we just pretend that it's you, Michael?
Actually, it is me.
Oh, that's another one for me. Oh, no, it's not, because you now have
No, it's not.
+5.
No, it's not because now we're at +5.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Or at least +4. I think. Doesn't it just subtract 2 from your
I don't
initiative?
know. I don't know what it does.
I think it does. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's all it does. Okay. Okay, so we will activate our very last one, which is crossing. And they're going to move a little bit. It's going to be 2 for most of them. It's going to be 3 for all of them. And then 4. And I will go ahead and decide what are we going to do here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh boy. Okay, he's just going to stay where he is then. And he will. Oh, screw it. We'll just move him. Okay. All right. I think that's it.
Okay. So,
Eric?
gentlemen, we've been at it for 3 hours. I don't know what time it is in your part of the world.
Most of which, to be fair, was jawboning, not actually getting work done.
Yeah. So I don't know if
Yeah.
you want to call it quits here and then pick it up next week.
We sure could.
Yeah.
I think we can get through the remainder of this turn relatively quickly because we're just going to be moving whatever units you can move before you run out of
Run out of time.
the end
Yeah.
turn marker, and then we can just pick up with the next turn after that.
Okay. Sounds like a
All
deal.
right, very good. Everybody feeling good, feeling confident, ready for the dice to start messing with your cunning plan.
You are
course.
presuming we had a cunning plan to begin with.
Oh, we've got a cunning plan, but it's so cunning it may actually be hidden from us.
Ah, I'm familiar with
That's the
those.
that's the problem with cunning, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's that after action report on Concept World?
Well, it's just on the Battles from the Age of Reason thread.
Okay.
Which is, a thread I've been part of since forever and which is generally pretty active, but which for some reason has just gone totally quiet. Individual game or series discussion, era gunpowder, Napoleonic or before, Battles from the Age of Reason series. And I click, and there's crickets for 7 days straight.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything posted
There it
over there in a
is.
while.
I see it.
So you posted an after action report a while back?
I think the after action report was on the 4th, so that would have been last Saturday.
Oh, so was this on our Battle of
Or
Prague?
Prague.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. And I just thought, oh, I should do that while it's all still fresh in memory. And so I took some screen captures and I wrote up kind of a broad, how did the battle go? And then kind of what did we think about the fact that we couldn't have gotten to +20 if you'd dropped us out of an airplane,
Right.
So what the hell? But also appreciating that we just had the dice just weren't going to make that happen. And so I posted all that. And then the next day I posted an unrelated Prague thought. And I would have thought either the unrelated Prague thought or the AAR would have involved some sort of response from people. And there's been literally nothing.
Well, you might want to copy it over. Are you on the Battles of the Age of Reason Facebook page?
Oh, no. You're right. I am. I did not think to do
Yeah,
it there.
because sometimes that, I don't know. I found at least with the Labatai, the Facebook page has been a lot more active than the Consim page.
Yeah. I
So-
just find it surprising because if you scroll back through this thread,
Mm-hmm.
look at the dates on the messages.
Right.
Almost every day.
And you must have broken it then.
Yeah, no, somehow I broke it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how
Everybody looked
exactly.
at it and said, "What? What?"
Oh, this guy's a moron. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. It's just I would embarrass myself even responding to him. So
There
I
you go.
won't. Yeah. So yeah, that's where it is. It wasn't like the most elaborate AAR, but I just kind of wanted to kind of show what happened, what didn't happen, and so on. And it's always helpful for me to remember. I like